Chapter 181. Well, cough. Lan Hua coughed. It's a good thing you're not affected by the illusion. Shining, haha. She suddenly did not feel like saving them. Who's there? The two of them stopped their swords and turned to look at the three people not far away. Their expressions changed again. You still don't want to give up. You actually created three people this time. Lone Moon snorted coldly and was about to rush over with his sword. Wait. I Ching immediately pulled him back. Ask them first. With that said, he stepped forward and scanned the three people in front of them. Then he said to Shining, Master, what do you want to eat for lunch? The corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. She glanced at Father Nyo, gritted her teeth and said, Immortal. Crane. I Ching, Lone Moon, alright, this one was real. Where did you go? Why are you so late? Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief and walked over. He looked at Chu Xian, whose face was swollen and bruised. He was surprised to see Lan Hua. Why is he here too? They're good friends reuniting. Shining explained casually. What chicken oil? Lan Hua was confused. Thinking of the current situation, he did not ask further. He pointed at the sea of flowers and said, This is the Heart Captivation Valley. These flowers can create illusions. Your other disciples are inside. We have to save them quickly. If they stay too long, they won't be able to get out. Their expressions darkened. I Ching said directly, Tell me where they are. 30 feet southwest and east. Lan Hua had already memorized their positions when he was in the air. He immediately pointed in the direction of the disciples. Time is tight. We'd better split up and save. Before he could finish speaking, I Ching suddenly turned and waved his sword. There were a few dragon roars and a huge burst of sword chi exploded. Tens of huge dragons formed from sword chi roared and rushed in all directions. Everywhere they passed, flowers and grass were uprooted. Soil flew everywhere and the ground was cut. In a short while, apart from the 5 directions that they had deliberately avoided, the entire sea of flowers had turned into a pile of mud. Thank you. I Ching kept his sword and bowed. Chu Xian, Lan Hua, this kind of sword aura, it was AF * King Young Emperor. Are you kidding me? What on earth happened in the immortal world during these years of cultivating the fiendish Tao? Shining and Lone Moon, on the other hand, walked in the direction of the disciples as if they were used to it. With the sea of flowers destroyed, they naturally woke up from the illusion. Next, how do we break this array? Lone Moon asked. Although they were already safe, there were still many people trapped in other places. They couldn't just leave them to die. Moreover, they were all in the primordial spirit state. If they did not break the formation, they would not be able to return to their bodies. Shining tilted her head and looked at the pig head behind her. Chu Xian shuddered and hurriedly confessed, Well, actually the Heart Captivation Valley is also in the center of the Immortal Execution Array, so the Heart Array Stone should be nearby. He really did not expect these people to solve the Obsession Valley so quickly. It seemed that even if they didn't come in, this array wouldn't be able to trap them. Then let's go and find the Heart Formation Stone. Lone Moon said a few words to Yu Hong and the others, then set up an array to prevent them from getting separated. Then he turned and led the group into the white fog. That's right. Shining had just taken 2 steps when she remembered something. She turned to Lan Hua and said, Boss, bring the necklace back. It felt weird to keep emitting black smoke. Lan Hua hesitated. Was she worried that everyone would recognize him as a demon when they woke up? Suddenly he felt a warmth in his heart. A familiar feeling flowed out from his heart and spread throughout his entire body. His hand uncontrollably reached for his collar. Wait. Good heart, don't be rash. Even if we don't have the immortal stone, we can't just strip him here. Lan Hua suddenly felt an urge to die. At the last moment, a thought flashed across his mind. He turned and grabbed Chu Xian. You want to repay a debt of gratitude, right? Chu Xian was overjoyed. Master, you finally acknowledge. Did you bring the storage bag? Before he could finish speaking, Lan Hua suddenly reached out his hand. Yes, I did. Chu Xian subconsciously handed it over. Thus, in the next moment he saw his benefactor open the bag and empty out the storage bag. He then forcefully shoved it to the female immortal surnamed Shen in front of him. As he emptied it out, he said, I don't know what these are either. But take it all. As long as he did not take off his clothes. So boss can use it like this. Lone Moon's eyes flashed. He took out an empty storage bag and handed it over. Come Shining. Use this to keep it. I Ching, the disciples, Chu Xian. His heart hurt, but he could not say it out loud. He had to admit that the Celestial Emperor was indeed rich. Lan Hua searched for nearly an hour before he emptied Chu Xian's bag of treasures. Emperor. Celestial Emperor. Chu Xian held the empty storage bag in disbelief. Finally he could not help but ask, I wonder if this Shen, exalted goddess, is yours? She's a kind heart. Can't you tell? Kind heart? He subconsciously held his swollen pig head. Are you sure she's a kind heart, and not a demon heart? The few of them walked into the white fog. Without the flowers they did not encounter any danger. After walking for about 15 minutes, Lone Moon, who was the only one who was proficient in array formations, suddenly stopped. The eye of the array should be in front of us. He pointed in front of them. I Ching conjured a wind seal. Immediately, a strong gust of wind blew away the thick fog. A stone platform appeared in front of them. There were all sorts of golden dermic talismans on it. All around it were array diagrams. Red liquid flowed out of the array and seeped into the ground along the diagrams. In the middle of the array sat a man. He was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. A wound on his hand was bleeding profusely. Qin Gu! Lone Moon exclaimed. Why was he here? What's more, it was not his primordial spirit but his real body sitting in the middle. What's going on? Lan Hua turned to look at Chu Xian. Chu Xian glared at the man in the eye of the array resentfully. He said unwillingly, this array was set up using his blood. That's why his body is the eye of the array. If everything went smoothly he would bleed his last drop of blood here. Only when all the immortal qi in his body dissipated would the array disappear. What's more, Qin Gu had the highest cultivation level in the array. Naturally he was the best choice. He is now one with the immortal execution array. His body is under the control of the array. His primordial spirit is not in his body. The heart array stone is under his feet. If we want to break the array we have to defeat him first. I can't make him leave the heart array stone either. He looked at Shening guiltily and continued, that's why. I said I can't break it. If we want to destroy the heart array stone we have to fight him. One of us will be injured. His life might even be in danger. He is the celestial emperor of Fengcang. You can't bear to injure. Before he could finish speaking, I Ching and Lone Moon had already rushed out with their swords. Without any hesitation they swung their swords at Qin Gu. The man in the array opened his eyes at the same time. His eyes were unfocused. He fought with the two of them like a puppet. What a great opportunity. I've been wanting to beat this bastard for a long time. Chu Xian, was he imagining things? Why did these two sword immortals look so excited? Did the people of Fengcang continent all look down on the celestial emperor? Chapter 182. Shening and the rest left the heavens beyond heaven on the second day. When the country emperors woke up, they threw Chu Xian to Qin Gu. This was a matter between the two continents. Invincible sect belonged to the Fengcang continent. Chu Xian setting up the immortal execution array was obviously a provocation to the entire continent. This matter could only be left to Qin Gu, who was also a celestial emperor. Chu Xian did not even struggle. Qin Gu immediately sealed his immortal qi and locked him up. Perhaps because Shening was around, or because he knew that Qin Gu would not dare to do anything to him. After all, he was the celestial emperor of Hechuan. His death could easily lead to an all-out war between the two continents. Although they did not know how Qin Gu would deal with it, he would probably be busy for a while. Lone Moon was different from the various angry country emperors. He had no interest in this kind of political battle. He quickly led the disciples back. Their immortal boat had just reached the entrance of the heavens beyond heaven when a ray of light flashed by. A figure hurried up to them. Everyone please hold on. It was Qin Gu. He had flown in a hurry as if he had rushed over at the last minute. He stopped above the 10-direction boat. Sect Master Shen, elders, why didn't you inform me that you were leaving? I could have sent you off. Lone Moon looked at Qin Ji's swollen face. He subconsciously turned his head away and lifted his hand to undo the protective array on the boat. He coughed lightly and bowed. Why did the Celestial Emperor come personally? Everyone here is an old friend. Since you are leaving, I naturally had to send you off. Qin Gu flew down and looked at the three people in front of him. Out of habit, the corners of his mouth turned up. He wanted to smile, but the wound at the corner of his mouth made a soft sound. He immediately stopped smiling. Lone Moon and I Ching, they turned to look at the sky. They did not know anything. It was all thanks to the two elders that the immortal execution array and the country emperors and I were able to escape. Qin Gu solemnly cupped his fists, full of gratitude. The three of them, they suddenly felt a little guilty. Only then did they realize that he had come alone. Unlike before when he appeared with a group of immortal officials behind him. Ahem, that the Celestial Emperor is too kind. We are all immortals of Fengsong. Besides, wasn't it all thanks to the Celestial Emperor that we succeeded in breaking the array? Lone Moon stepped forward and answered. Everyone came out unscathed, but he was the only one with a swollen head. That was why he discussed it with I Ching. When they came out, they said that Chingu was the one who broke the formation and that they were just there to support him. After all, they were beating up his body, and his primordial spirit wasn't inside, so he shouldn't have discovered it. Probably. Fellow immortal Lone Moon, you must be joking. Chingu sighed. His eyes were filled with genuine gratitude. The emperors do not know the truth, but I do. What? Lone Moon's heart tightened. Didn't they say that his primordial spirit was not here? He wouldn't be looking for trouble, right? At that time, my Yuan Shin had left my body and I couldn't move at all. How could I have broken the array to save the emperors? He sighed, and his expression became even more sincere. So, there must be two people who broke the array and they must have protected my body in the array. Everyone. Did the other immortals know about such a wild imagination? You wanted to help me stabilize the emperors, so you said that I was the one who broke the array, right? Chingu looked confident. Lone Moon paused, then laughed even more profitably. He nodded shamelessly and said, I still can't hide it from you, Celestial Emperor. I Ching, Shining, indeed businessmen had to be thick-skinned. How shameless. It's been so many years since we last met. I thought there was a gap between us. He shook his head self-deprecatingly. I didn't think that the people who would help me at such a critical moment would be you. This is the second time you've helped me. Chingus can't thank you enough. He suddenly bent down and bowed solemnly to them. Lone Moon suddenly felt that he had hit him a little too hard just now. Celestial Emperor, don't stand on ceremony. This is what we should do. Not to mention that they were trapped in the array, the invincible sect was also a part of Fengsong. Chen Ji's expression became more and more agitated. Suddenly he seemed to recall something. He frowned and said, there is indeed a problem with the Earth Immortal Tournament. Weiling. I didn't teach her well. I've already revoked her title as the champion and punished her to go into seclusion for 100 years. As for how she won the tournament, I will find out and give you an explanation. With that, he waved his hand and an immortal artifact floated in front of them. It was the immortal artifact that had been awarded to the Earth Immortal Enchantress. This was my oversight. I didn't notice the problem with my disciple and was unfair. I hope you haven't fallen out with me because of this. Lone Moon fell silent. He didn't know how to reply. Shining, on the other hand, grabbed the immortal artifact and said, oh, it's all right. With that, she threw it to the girl in purple behind her. Little Z, it's yours. The body cultivator girl, who was originally ranked second among the Earth Immortals, caught it subconsciously. She looked confused. Thank you, Sect Master. Sect Master gave it to her. She was happy. Sect Master Shin is indeed magnanimous. Chingu thanks you. With that said, he bowed to the few of them once more. After exchanging a few more pleasantries with Lone Moon, he turned to I Ching and said, actually, I have a favor to ask of fellow immortal I Ching. Lone Moon frowned subconsciously. No wonder he was so polite today. So there was something else. What is it? I Ching asked. Chingu took out something that looked like a white seal and continued, this is the immortal seal of Chonglan. Guyu betrayed Fengsong and is no longer fit to be the emperor of Chonglan. In the whole of Chonglan, Brother I Ching's cultivation level is the highest. That's why I would like to ask you to replace Guyu as the emperor of Chonglan. Emperor. Lone Moon and his companions were stunned. They knew that Chingu was looking for I Ching for a big reason. They even suspected that Chingu would ask him to attack Hechuan. After all, Qin Ji's cultivation level was probably no weaker than Qin Ji's. They did not expect him to ask I Ching to be the emperor of Chonglan. Fellow immortal I Ching is already a young emperor and a sword immortal. I'm afraid there's no other immortal stronger than you in the whole of Chonglan. That's why you're the most. I'm not doing it. What? Chingu was stunned. He did not expect I Ching to reject him. What? Because. I Ching said seriously, I don't have time to cook. Chingu. What the hell? Lone Moon. You're an immortal chef. Shining. What a good chef. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He sighed and answered on Qinji's behalf, thank you for your kindness, Celestial Emperor. But the matter of a new emperor is very important. I Ching has always been an itinerant cultivator. I'm afraid it's not convenient for him to manage a region. Chingu said it nicely, but if he really wanted to take on the job, given the nature of this master and disciple, he would be the one who would be exhausted in the end. The more than 200 immortals and invincible sect were already worried sick. If it was the immortals of an entire country, he still wanted to live a few more years. He definitely could not take on this job. I know that the few of you have noble characters and are not greedy for fame and fortune, but Chingu looked like he was in a difficult position. He had no choice. Someone had to manage Chonglan, and they were the most suitable. How about? Lonmun's eyes flashed. How about I recommend someone to Celestial Emperor? Really? Qinji's eyes lit up. Yes. Lone Moon nodded vigorously. He's definitely very suitable. Since fellow immortal Lone Moon recommended someone, I naturally believe him. May I know who he is? He's **** a few kilometers away. Sun Shu, who was about to bring his people back, suddenly sneezed. Why did he feel a chill on his back? Chapter 183. 4 hours later. The 10-direction boat finally left the heavens beyond heaven and headed in the direction of Chongzhen. Hey! Lone Moon nudged Xining, who was half curled up on the chair and still chewing on her fruit. What's wrong with you this time? It's not like you. How could you forgive Qinggu and his disciple so easily? Was she this forgiving towards people who offended her in the past? Why not? Xining looked at him in surprise. Did he do something wrong? That goes without saying. He looked as if she was suffering from amnesia. What did he do? Lonmun's words were stuck in his throat. On second thought, Qinggu really did not seem to have done anything wrong. Instead, he and I Ching worked together to beat him up. Huiling, that little bitch. Don't you hate her? Who said I hate her? You can't be. Lone Moon scanned her from head to toe. Why did he not realize that she had the potential to be a saint before? Did you forget what she said about you in the main hall? She obviously misunderstood your identity and was jealous that you were the only female emperor. That's why she deliberately provoked you. She even used your identity as the Celestial Emperor's disciple to suppress you. I didn't forget. Xining was still as lazy as ever. She poured a cup of green tea on herself but did not drink it. And in this competition, she cheated in front of everyone. If she did not rely on the person in the necklace, how could my sect's disciple lose? Oh? And Lonmun's eyes widened. Just these two things and you're not angry at all? I am. Then you. Lone Moon was even more confused. Xining turned to look at him, then at the surrounding disciples. Suddenly, she put down the fruit in her hand and sighed. So troublesome. Father Nyo, what kind of person am I in your eyes? Her voice lowered and she asked seriously. Huh? Lone Moon hesitated. Why did she ask that? Green Tea Girl did offend me verbally, but I paid her back. She did cheat, but the matter has been exposed. Salted Fish apologized and dealt with. She has already received the punishment she deserved. Isn't that enough? But what do you want me to do? Smash her head? But apart from these two things, what else has she done that has angered both men and gods? If a person cheats in a duel and says some provocative words, and then has to die to atone for his crime, isn't such a punishment a little too terrifying? Xining narrowed her eyes. I really don't like her. I even hate her fake personality. But just because I don't like her, should she die? In your eyes, am I such a person who will kill someone if they don't agree with me and can't listen to any opposing views? Everyone has the right to hate others, but people can't judge right and wrong based on their own likes and dislikes. Xining continued, just like Salted Fish, I know you hated him from the start because of the plot. But did he actually do anything wrong? As an emperor, he tried his best to protect the country emperors. As a master, although he was biased, he was still fair. When he discovered the problem, he corrected it in time and personally punished his disciple. As an old friend, he suppressed the hatred of the country emperors towards Invincible sect and specially invited us to participate in the Mystic Spirits and Spirits Convention to establish our prestige. Could it be that just because he is the male lead, we choose not to see these things or think that he has ulterior motives? Father Nyo, when did I become such a narrow-minded, ungrateful scum? There was a dead silence. Lonmun's expression was even more complicated. He then began to reflect on everything that happened in the heavens beyond heaven these few days. Apart from his preconceived notions and his rejection of Qinggu, it seemed that he really didn't do anything that was disadvantageous to them. Even from the start, he seemed to be biased towards Invincible sect. Whether it was the joint request of the country emperors or the invitation to attend the Mystic Spirits and Spirits Convention. Although with Xining around they were not afraid of all this. But Qinggu actually did not know all this. Even about the immortal execution array, he always thought that the two of them were the ones who broke it. So he really did everything he could to help Invincible Sect. Although they didn't need it, could they completely deny his kindness just because they didn't need it? Apart from the time Hui Ling offended Xining and was punished to face the wall, but was released the next day. But at the end of the day Hui Ling was just being rude. In the modern world this might not even be considered a crime. She was also a disciple who was going to participate in the competition. It didn't seem wrong to be locked up for only a day. Why did he have to be so unforgiving towards the two of them? He knew very well that it was all because of the plot. Previously he was afraid that the plot would develop like the original novel. He finally accepted the fact that the plot was completely different from the novel, but now he was being held back by the settings of the characters. Because Qinggu was the male lead and Hui Ling was the new female lead, he was biased against the two of them from the start. He thought that they would definitely bring harm to the people around them. This was his stereotype of them. He didn't even like Xian Tong at the start. But it was only until Hui Ling appeared that he really let go of his prejudice against her. He was trapped in a dead end, so he couldn't see the reality. He even thought about making the two of them disappear forever. Lonman's heart suddenly went cold. He almost stopped falling from the high ground. His heart suddenly cleared up, as if he had broken through the fog that had been bothering him for a long time. Something hidden was exploding continuously. Xining? Ha! Xining paused. You're not thinking of killing them, are you? No, I just wanted to make a suggestion. What? Lone Moon suddenly revealed a frightening smile. The next time you want to have a serious conversation with me, can you not choose to do it in the air? Ha! Before Xining could ask, Lone Moon suddenly released a huge burst of immortal chi that he had never seen before. His entire body was like a glowing object, shining with a dazzling white light. The supreme-grade immortal artifact 10-direction boat under his feet suddenly exploded with a loud bang. Holy shit! Xining lost her balance and fell straight down. Master. Fortunately, I Ching was quick to react. He pulled her onto his flying sword and flew out of the range of the immortal chi. What's going on? He's having an epiphany. Damn. The buff that Father Nyo had gained from this one conversation had not been removed. Where are the others? I think they're having an epiphany too. So he had just cast a group buff. Wait. Xin Ying's expression changed. She subconsciously wanted to run in that direction. Father Nyo, you haven't given me my living expenses. Chapter 184. After this group buff, everyone's cultivation level increased tremendously. Especially Siyu and Yu Hong, both of them became mystic immortals. Father Nyo's cultivation level did not change. He still looked like an exalted immortal, but his immortal chi had increased tenfold, reaching the level of a young emperor. Since the heavens beyond heaven was not far away, they turned around and went back to the emperor ascension stage. But after this enlightenment, the immortal chi around them seemed to be different. The immortal chi that used to be pure and unruffled now seemed to have a tinge of gold in it. It surrounded everyone, especially Father Nyo. If he did not purposely hide it, the tinge of gold would have solidified. I Ching studied it for a long time but could not figure out what it was that suddenly appeared. Even Feng Ying's system scan could only show that it was harmless. After going back and forth like this, it was already 4 months later when they returned to Invincible Sect. Invincible Sect was still the same. Although they did not have the demonic chi around them to train, they had the support of many Dharma treasures. The disciples' cultivation speed did not slow down, but continued to grow steadily. Especially Xian Tong, she was already showing signs of growing immortal bones. Compared to the other disciples, she was very slow. But with the balance of the necklace, she could still cultivate to this level. It was obvious how hard she worked. Roasted Chicken Gal was naturally the happiest. She reported to Lone Moon and created a cave abode at the bottom of the mountain where the immortal chi was thick, so that she could cultivate in peace. Every once in a while she would go over to check on her. Feng Ying, on the other hand, was hopping mad. He felt like he had a fake girlfriend. 2 months later, hey, later plant radish in the southeast corner of the back mountain. I've reserved a spot. The biggest pit is there. Lone Moon waved his sleeves and threw a flower pot as tall as a person in front of Xining. In the middle of the flower pot was a green radish. It was rolling its leaves and playing with the stones around it out of boredom. Each stone was aimed in Lone Moon's direction. Unfortunately, they were all blocked by the array outside the pot. What? Shining finished the last mouthful of rice and looked at the flower pot on the ground. Didn't Radish have its own pit in the back mountain? Its previous pit was too far away. Now planted on the immortal meridian. This way those immortal herbs will grow faster. The immortal herb seeds that Wu Lai and Biao Ting sent over previously had already sprouted, and the two celestial emperors were afraid that they wouldn't be able to grow them, so they insisted on giving them two immortal veins. Now that the immortal meridian had been integrated into the back mountain and the array formation had been adjusted, Radish naturally had to switch to another pit. That's so troublesome. Why do I have to go? Shining immediately felt her entire body aching. If you don't go, will Radish stay there obediently? Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her. Why didn't she think about who had spoiled Radish so much? Why was a vegetation spirit with a pure heart becoming more and more like a delinquent? Immortal plants take at least 1,000 years to grow, and at most 10,000 years to grow. If we don't speed up the ripening of the radish, when will we be able to use it to refine pills for money? Shining replied in a small voice, do we still need to grow grass to earn money? Didn't they earn a lot a while ago? You don't need it? Lone Moon exploded instantly. He stood up and slammed the table. We really don't need it, but you should stop picking people up from the sect. He turned and pointed angrily at Lan Hua, who was sitting on the right. Forget about Shen Tong. What's going on here? Isn't he a demon? Why is he still here? And he's even freaking eating at our table? Do you know that immortals and demons can't coexist? Don't mind the details. Details my ass. As a demon, not only did Lan Hua not hide from immortal cultivators, he even dared to openly eat at an immortal sect. The key was that the entire sect, from the sect master to the disciples guarding the mountain, did not react at all. It was as if this was a very normal thing to do. Flip's table. They were a proper immortal sect, all right? Weren't you the ones who kidnapped me in the beginning? Why did you have to drag me to the heavens beyond heaven? Lan Hua snorted coldly. If not for this, who would want to stay here? Then leave. Lone Moon rolled his eyes at him. First, we didn't kidnap you, and second, we didn't drag you. It's already been a few months. Why are you still here to freeload? Air. Lan Hua stiffened, as if only just realizing that he was already free. He did not know why he was still here and not leaving. Moreover, when it was mealtime, he inexplicably started eating with good heart. But the thought of leaving made him suddenly unable to move. After a long while, he squeezed out an excuse. My good heart is here. Of course I can't leave? What if something happened to her? Bullshit. Lone Moon glared at him. Weren't you very happy when you left? Who was the one who hid in the willow forest back then? All right, Dad wins. Lone Moon glanced at the two good-for-nothings on the table. After a long while, he said word by word, our invincible sect does not keep useless people. If you stay, you have to do things. Including the mascot. Understand? Yes. The two nodded perfunctorily and continued to eat calmly, not caring whether the bowls were empty or not. Seeing that the two still did not move, Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Yu Hong, call back the disciple who went to the immortal city to buy vegetables. As soon as he finished speaking, the person who was still eating stood up immediately. Don't worry, Father Nyo. Leave the radish to me. I will definitely grow it to wealth, to standards, and to characteristics. With that said, with a swoosh, she picked up the flower pot on the ground and went to the back of the mountain. Lone Moon then turned to look at the person who was left alone beside him. I'm going to do things too. Lan Hua immediately raised his claws. So, as an all-rounder, the former celestial emperor Lan Hua. In the short span of a day, he was watched by Lone Moon to set up a protective mountain array, as well as hundreds of arrays all over the sect. He refined 3 batches of regular pills and 2 immortal artifacts. He was completely exhausted. Only when he lay on the bed did he remember something. Wait, the person watching him was not that pervert I Ching. Why did he have to be so obedient? Late at night. A round white ball of fur passed through the front hall and went straight in a certain direction in the side hall. It stopped outside the window of a small independent building. It jumped onto the windowsill, its 2 furry tails hanging below the windowsill. The little white animal gently opened the window. Its black eyes turned and carefully scanned the inside of the house. Suddenly, it fixed its eyes on a wooden table not far away. Its eyes immediately widened and it let out an excited cry. Coo. Just as it let out a cry, it immediately covered its mouth with its front paw. It panted soundlessly and looked around cautiously. After a while, as if seeing that no one had discovered it, it then stretched out a slender tail towards the direction of the wooden table. There was only one lamp on the table. At this time it had already burned out. It looked like it was made of jade. There were white and green patterns floating on it. Even in this dark night, the lamp still emitted a faint glow. The little white animal tried its best to stretch out its tail, but the wooden table was at the other end of the house. There was a long distance between them. It could not reach it all. It seemed to be a little anxious. One of its tails swayed back and forth impatiently. After a while it seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, it spoke the human language and softly chanted a spell. For a moment, its originally fat tail began to thin and elongate. It was a full 2 times longer than before and had successfully reached the wooden table. However, it was still not enough to roll up the lamp. Only the fine fur on its tail could reach a little bit of the lamp wall. Half of its body had already crawled through the window. Seeing that it still could not reach the lamp, its entire fur trembled. It simply stretched out its other tail and opened its mouth to bite down hard on the tail. Red blood immediately gushed out and flowed onto the tail. The other tail also began to stretch and elongate, even longer than the previous one. The little white animal was so happy that it forgot to stop its bleeding. It directly extended its long tail towards the lamp and was about to reach it. Shening, who was sitting at the table, in the next moment she reached out and silently moved the lamp in the center of the table an inch further. "It's hot," Shening explained in a serious manner. "You." White Fur was shocked. The fur on its body instantly stood up. A female voice sounded, "Why are you here? Since when was there someone in the house?" It actually did not notice at all. The little white animal's face was full of panic. It seemed to have thought of something and suddenly bared its teeth at her fiercely. "Give me the lamp." With that said, there was a flash of red light on its body. Its 2 tails once again grew wildly. Together with Xin Ying's hand, they wrapped around the lamp layer by layer. It turned around and wanted to escape through the window. It pulled with all its might, wanting to drag the person and the lamp away. However, before it could jump off the windowsill, it found that it could not move. How was this possible? It immediately chanted a wind spell and used 10 times its strength to pull, but it still couldn't move it. Instead, there was a tearing pain at the root of its tail. Its entire body was in pain. Shening looked at her hand that was wrapped into a ball by the tail and frowned in disgust. "So hairy." She subconsciously raised her hand and gently pulled. White Hair, who had been unable to move for a long time, was instantly pulled back. His 4 claws were still gripping the windowsill, and with a rumble he was pulled into the house along with the windowsill. It rolled to Shenying's feet and fainted. "Shening, this was a midnight snack that the sect let loose?" 10 minutes later. "Demon?" Lone Moon, who heard the commotion and rushed over, picked up the little white animal on the ground. "It's a level 2 demon. What happened?" He turned to look at Yu Hong. How did such a weak demon break into the invincible sect? It could even make its way into Xin Ying's room. I don't know either. Yu Hong shook her head. Could it be that none of you discovered such an obvious demon? Lone Moon suddenly had some doubts about the effectiveness of the new array set up by the sect. There are many animals raised by the disciples in the sect. I don't know when a demon sneaked in. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Aren't the animals you raise unintelligent poultry? Don't think that I don't know. The animals they raised were all meat dishes that they prepared for Shening when he deducted their food allowance. This is obviously a fox. A 2-tailed spirit fox. Fox. Yu Hong paused. She looked at the round body. No wonder no one had discovered it. I thought it was a rabbit demon. Siyu, I thought it was a goat demon. Bitao, I thought it was a pig demon. Shening, it looks meaty. I Ching, Master, should I go get the knife now? Hey, that's enough. Lone Moon glared at them. We haven't even started asking. Is there anything else in your heads besides eating? What's more, the intelligent demons in the immortal realm were either spirit pets or relatives of demon immortals. One look and you could tell that it had an owner. Lone Moon stepped forward and conjured a spell to wake the fox demon on the ground. Where did you come from? Why did you steal this lamp? Lone Moon pointed at the jade lamp on the table. The fox demon was still confused. It shook its head and looked at the lamp on the table. Its eyes widened. Lamp? What? It suddenly pounced on the jade lamp. Its 2 front paws were wrapped tightly around the lamp. Before it could pick it up, it screamed and released its paws. The fur on its front paws turned yellow and a burning smell wafted through the air. Shening? I already said it's hot. Do you want to braise it? Steaming it would be better. Lone Moon frowned. He trapped the fox demon within a 1-meter radius and asked again, Tell me the truth. You're a fox demon with a wind spirit root. Why did you steal this lousy lamp? The fox demon seemed to have finally understood its situation. It looked at the group timidly and curled up into a ball. It did not answer but kept glancing at the lamp on the table. You don't want to tell me? Lone Moon's expression darkened. If you don't want to tell me, I'll talk to your owner. With that said, he conjured a spell and waved it at the fox. Whether it was a spirit pet or a demon immortal's relative, all demons in the immortal realm that had not become immortals had a contract to prevent them from being accidentally hurt. It was not difficult to find out which fox it belonged to. The white fox shuddered. It seemed to have seen through Lone Moon's plan. It hurriedly cried out, No, this has nothing to do with my owner. I came to steal the lamp myself. Don't look for him. Then what's the point of stealing this lamp? Its voice grew weaker and weaker. It trembled even more, but it could not come up with a reason for a long time. Yu Hong, go to the back hall and call Lan Hua over. Lone Moon could not be bothered to listen to the fat fox. He turned and instructed Yu Hong. This lamp was one of the immortal artifacts that Lan Hua had taken out previously. He did not know what it was, so he left it in Xin Ying's room for her to use as a light source. Now it seemed that this lamp had other uses. This is the spirit convening lamp, Lan Hua explained. Spirit convening lamp? What did that mean? It's used to gather remnant souls, Lan Hua said nonchalantly. It's not usually used. Unless someone's soul is missing, then they would need this lamp. But this lamp can only gather remnant souls of mortals. If an immortal is seriously injured, his soul cannot be summoned back. At most, he can summon back a part of his primordial spirit. There's actually an immortal artifact that can repair souls. Lone Moon was a little surprised. Souls were hard to repair once they were scattered. Mortals' souls were especially fragile. If they were scattered, they would turn into ashes. There was actually a lamp that could repair souls. Who said this was an immortal artifact? Lan Hua looked at her like she was a country bumpkin. Not an immortal artifact? Then what was it? I found this in the Yufeng immortal domain. It's an authentic 10 Directions divine artifact. Shining, Lone Moon, I Ching, you even have a divine artifact. What else have you not given to Shining? So Shining has been using this divine artifact as a light source all these days. The quality of this 10 Directions divine artifact is too uneven, isn't it? Chapter 185. Great Immortals, please lend me this lamp. Seeing that everyone already knew what the lamp was for, the fox demon began to plead. I promise to return it in 10 days. Please. Whose primordial spirit do you want to use this lamp to mend? Lone Moon frowned. The fox demon subconsciously raised his head to look at Lan Hua. His face was filled with hesitation as he looked around guiltily. Lone Moon was not in the mood to wait for her to make up stories. He conjured a spell and waved it at her. Don't. The white fox tried to stop him, but it was too late. A moment later, a seal appeared on the fox demon's pure white fur. The words Xan Han were written on it. The white fox's face turned pale. Xan Han? Oh. Lone Moon turned and asked, Has anyone heard of this name? Everyone shook their heads, confused. The white fox on the ground paused. Then her eyes lit up with joy. She heaved a sigh of relief. Lan Hua, you're the oldest here. Have you heard of this name? Lone Moon turned to Lan Hua. What the hell was the oldest? This name sounds familiar. Xan Han. Xan? He thought hard for a long time, then shook his head. I can't remember. What's the point of keeping you around? You were once an emperor. Lone Moon rolled his eyes and frowned. This matter was a little difficult to handle. He could only wait until tomorrow to ask the newly appointed country monarch Sun. But there's someone who should know. Lan Hua suddenly thought of something and suggested. Who? Wait a minute. I'll call him over. He rushed out like the wind. Less than 2 minutes later, he returned dragging a man dressed in blue. He said confidently, It's him. Exalted Goddess Shen, fellow immortals, long time no see. Chu Xian smiled awkwardly. Lone Moon, Shining, I Ching, explain. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and resisted the urge to punch someone. He grabbed Lan Hua and asked, Where did this person come from? Wasn't he locked up by Chengu? Why was he here? I just popped out tonight. Lan Hua looked aggrieved. When he returned to his room at night, this guy came. Wasn't it too late to chase them out? Fellow immortal Lone Moon, you've misunderstood, Chu Xian immediately explained. I did not escape. It was Chingu, that bastard. He released me on his own accord. Yichuan paid the price and promised not to be enemies with Fengcang. So, the matter with the immortal execution array is over. Let bygones be bygones. Since Celestial Emperor Lan Hua had been found, he would have plenty of opportunities to repay his kindness in the future. Even if they wanted to escape, they wouldn't have come this way. He glanced at Shining, who was squatting on the ground and plucking the white fox's fur from time to time. Instinctively, he hid behind Lan Hua, his body aching. So, Lonman's face was still full of disdain. He turned to glare at Lan Hua. What does this have to do with you being here? Here comes another freeloader. Lan Hua subconsciously averted his gaze. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me. He came on his own. I'm here to look for Mas. Celestial Emperor, Chu Xian said in a low voice. That day in the Meru realm, there were many things I did not have time to say, so? How long do you intend to stay here? 2-3 days? Or a few months? It depended on the Celestial Emperor. Get lost. The two of them shouted together. Lan Hua, Chu Xian, did they think the invincible sect was a shelter? Why did they all come here? It was not enough for a demon to come here. Now they had to deal with a Celestial Emperor from a hostile continent. If this went on, they would become the target of everyone. Father Nyo, you're a guest. Don't mind the details. Shining stood up and patted Father Nyo's shoulder. She turned to Chu Xian and asked, Did you bring immortal stones? Chu Xian paused. He did not understand what she meant, but he still took out a few bags of immortal stones from his storage bag and handed them over. I did bring a few bags. You should have said so earlier. Xin Ying's eyes lit up. So many. She hurriedly took the bags and handed them all to Lone Moon. Lone Moon's expression softened a little. Not tonight. You must leave tomorrow. On account of the accommodation fees. Chu Xian, why did he feel like he was being robbed? Xen Han. Chu Xian, who knew about the fox demon, was shocked. Of course I know her. Isn't that Yishui? Yishui continent? Lone Moon was shocked too. Is Xen Han the name of the Yishui Celestial Emperor? That's right. Chu Xian nodded. Don't you know? Wasn't this common knowledge in the immortal world? The new immortal team expressed that they really did not know. Yishui is Xen Han's territory. Chu Xian nodded and looked at the fox demon on the ground. He frowned and said, But he's a strange person. He's cold and hard to get along with. He doesn't interact with people from other continents. I've only seen him a few times. Among the 10 Celestial Emperors, only Chingu, that smooth talker, is on friendly terms with him. So this fox was the Celestial Emperor's spirit pet. Lone Moon looked down at the round little animal on the ground. No wonder it could grow to such a size. Since you're the Celestial Emperor's spirit pet, what's the point of stealing the spirit convening lamp? Lone Moon continued to ask. The fox demon was still curled up into a ball, with no intention of answering. If you don't tell us, we'll have to send you to the heavens beyond heavens and ask Celestial Emperor Xen Han in person. No. The white fox panicked. Suddenly, it pounced at Lone Moon, trying to break out of the array. But it was just a little fox demon that could not even transform. How could it possibly break out of Lone Moon's array? In an instant it was bounced back and its body was charred by the array. The white fox was roasted black, and it was completely sprawled on the ground, unable to move. It could only let out a series of low whimpers. Lone Moon conjured a sleeping spell to make the fox demon faint. Since it was the Celestial Emperor's spirit pet, he could not hurt it too badly. No matter why it stole the lamp, he would find out once he asked Xen Han. It looks like we won't be able to get an answer anytime soon, Lone Moon instructed. Yu Hong, lock the fox demon in the array at the back of the mountain. Yes. We'll find a time to send it back to E. Wait. Halfway through his sentence, his expression darkened. Shining put down the fox's claws. I told you not to eat them. Che, your ass. Are you from Guangdong? Wait. Not even your tail. Damn it. It looked like he had to send this fox that could not transform away as soon as possible. Immediately. Father Nyo and I Ching had gone to the heavens beyond heavens to send the fox. They were in such a hurry because the fox demon had gotten into trouble again in the middle of the night. It wanted to escape, but it triggered the meridian protection array at the back of the mountain and became a roasted fox. If Radish had not been nearby and fed it a few immortal herbs, it would probably have died. This fat fox was too troublesome, but it refused to say anything. To prevent it from tormenting itself to death, Lone Moon had no choice but to head to the heavens ahead of time. He did not know Celestial Emperor Yi Water's personality. To prevent any accidents, he dragged Yi Qing along. Without the two parents around, the entire invincible sect was completely free. They stopped working and planting immortal herbs. The entire sect began to study the 101 ways to cook for the sect master. Shening was hesitating about whether to organize a cooking competition or something when the fox demon that Father Nyo had taken away suddenly returned. And with a splat, it fell into the courtyard of the back hall, smashing through the roof and falling straight into the big pot that Chef did not allow anyone to touch. Shening, everyone outside the house. So, it wanted to be an ingredient? It really was a fox with a goal. Just as Shening was thinking about whether to grant it its wish, the whole fox suddenly climbed out of the pot. Its two claws hooked onto the corner of her clothes. With an anxious female voice, it said, "Sect Master Shin, your disciple has been taken away by a demon immortal." This was a pig demon, right? What happened? Lan Hua was the first to react. He picked up the fox demon from the ground. "How did you come back?" "And it was alone. Where are the others?" We met a demon immortal on the way." The fox demon trembled and said in a panic, "They fought, and were taken away. They saw that I was also a demon, so they did not touch me." "You quickly go and save them." "Demon immortal." Chu Xian frowned and said disdainfully, "How does Qingge manage Feng Tsang? Even demon immortals can come and go as they please?" Shining frowned and did not speak. Instead, the fox demon said anxiously, "It was not easy for me to escape and inform you. Those two demon immortals are very powerful. You'd better prepare well before you go and save them." "Where were they taken?" Lan Hua asked. "I don't know." The fox demon shook its head. "I only saw them heading south." "South." Chu Xian thought about it carefully. "Then they should have gone to another continent." "Exalted goddess, demon immortals and us immortal cultivators have never been on good terms. The elders of the sect have been taken away. We'd better hurry or else." "There's no rush." Shining suddenly turned and sat down lazily on the chair. She looked down at the fox demon and said, "You said that Father Nyo and Chef were both taken away by demon immortals?" "Yes." The fox demon nodded. "I saw it with my own eyes. Hurry and go and save them before it's too late. No matter how anxious we are, we have to get to the bottom of this." Shining remained calm. "Let me guess. Both of them are young emperors. The demon immortals who captured them are at least of a higher cultivation level than them. That means they are at least immortal emperors. But, you might not know that they are sword immortals. Not to mention Father Nyo, even 10 immortal emperors would not be able to take Chef away." Hearing this, the white fox shuddered. Its anxious gaze suddenly turned away in panic. "That means," Shining continued, "the person who captured them must be a celestial emperor, and there must be more than one." She turned to look at Chu Xian. "Hey, Boss Lan's friend, how many of the celestial emperors are demon immortals?" Chu Xian stiffened. What the hell was chicken oil? Still, he answered honestly, "Among the 10 celestial emperors, 3 are demon immortals. Qingzai's Biao Ting, Feng Tian's Wu Pai, and Tian Zhao's Bai Ti. There are only 3. That makes things easier." Shining narrowed her eyes and smiled at the fox demon. "Let me tell you one more thing. Little Biao and Little Biao are very close to Father Nyo. They could not have captured them. That leaves only the last one." The white fox subconsciously curled into a ball. "The last one Bai Ti." Chu Xian reminded. "Oh, we don't know this person. It doesn't make sense that they would come to capture us without any grudges. So those people could only be coming for you." She looked down at the fox demon and continued, "A group of demon immortals came specially to find you. They could have captured Chef and Father Nyo, but you managed to escape. This doesn't make sense unless—" Her expression darkened. "You are in cahoots with them. You are a fox demon who failed to steal something and was severely injured. You did not escape in the face of danger but came back to report. Even Radish can see that you have other motives. You just reminded us to be fully prepared before we go rescue them. The more prepared, the better. Ordinary immortal artifacts won't do. It's best to bring 1 or 2 divine artifacts. For example, the spirit convening lamp?" The fox demon trembled even more violently. His entire body arched as if he was going to rush out the next moment. Shining squatted down and leaned in close to the fox demon. She said word by word, "Little animals that lie will be roasted. Fox, everyone, tell me what happened to the 2 of them?" The fox demon did not answer. Instead, he suddenly lowered his body and turned around, trying to escape. Lan Hua, who was at the side, waved his hand and sent a wave of demonic qi towards the fox demon. The fox demon fell to the ground and began to struggle. Let me go, let me go. I'm not lying to you. They were indeed captured. I just want that lamp. I just want that lamp. But no matter how he struggled, he could not break free from the demonic qi. Instead, his pure white body was covered in bloody marks. Only then did he stop struggling. As if he had accepted his fate, he sounded like he was about to cry. Please, lend me the lamp. I won't tell anyone what happened here. I'll pretend that nothing happened. If you don't believe me, you can kill me after this. I just want to borrow that lamp to save people. Oh, I beg you. What did we do? Shining frowned. What did he mean? I won't tell. Really? Tell me what happened here. Tell me. The fox demon looked up and said weakly, You are harboring demons. Shining, the sheltered Lan Hua. So this was why he refused to say why he stole the lamp last night? The point was, this was a little hard to explain. Shining suddenly understood why Father Nyo was so against Lan Hua freeloading. Forget it. I'll go find the two of them first. Everything else could wait for Father Nyo to return. Good, the person who is harboring them stays. Lan Hua, I'm not familiar with Baijiao. You lead the way. Bring this little animal with you. Chu Xian, could he ask not to leave out the last word? Calling it chicken oil was better than calling it chicken. Underscored. Chapter 186. Feng Tian Feng Wan Palace. In the main hall, a blue-robed blackbird paced back and forth in front of the boxes filled with seeds, occasionally asking questions of the immortal officials beside him. These are the newly found immortal herb seeds? Yes, Emperor. There are a total of 375 types, 100 of each. They are all high-grade immortal seeds, specially grown on the immortal meridian. I guarantee that they will sprout within 2 days. Blackbird nodded. Have you checked them? Are you sure there are no bad seeds? I've checked them 10 times. Check them again before we leave. He frowned. We're sending them to the exalted goddess. Not a single seed can go wrong, understand? Yes, Emperor. Also change this box. The ordinary spirit sealing box can only seal immortal qi. Change it to one made of black immortal wood. Yes. Oh yes, did you deliver the immortal meridian we talked about? Add another one this time. If it sprouts but doesn't mature, it will be terrible. Yes. Oh yes, bring the immortal aura too. It will grow faster. Yes. Be careful on the way. Don't damage it. Use your immortal qi to protect it. Forget it, I'll deliver it. I don't feel at ease. Blackbird waved his hand and kept all the boxes of seeds into a jade storage box. He picked it up carefully and prepared to leave. An immortal official hurriedly ran in. Emperor Tensha's Emperor by requests an audience. By T? Blackbird paused. Why is he here? He even chose to deliver the seeds to the exalted goddess. Frowning, he handed the jade box to the immortal official beside him and instructed him to deliver it to the invincible sect today. He waved his hand to invite the person outside in. Emperor Blackbird. A moment later, a man dressed in a long green robe with golden embroidery walked in. His face was covered with a snow-white beard, but his voice was as loud as a bell. It's been many years. I wonder how you've been. Emperor Whitetail. Blackbird smiled courteously. What brings you to my Phoenix Palace today? Although they were both demons, the Fengtian continent was mostly made up of flying beasts, while the Tenzhou continent was mostly made up of land beasts. The relationship between the two continents could not be considered good, but it was not bad either. This was the first time Bai Ti had taken the initiative to look for him. We are both from the demon clan. It is only right that we interact more. Bai Ti smiled even more warmly. That's it? Wu Hong's expression did not change as he exposed him. Did Emperor Bai really come here just to catch up with me? Is there nothing else? Monarch Blackbird is indeed quick-witted. The smile on Bai Ti's face froze. I'm not afraid of Brother Wu laughing at me. I am here today to ask the Celestial Emperor for a favor. It's about my disobedient daughter. What's wrong? Your little princess disappeared again? Blackbird's voice was low, and there was a hint of ridicule in it. The entire Beyond Avalon knew that Bai Ti had a daughter. Bai Ti seemed to be used to it. He let out a long sigh and said, All you know is that I only have one child. She was usually pampered and spoiled, causing her to develop a stubborn temper. Of all the people she could have fallen for, she just had to fall for. Sai, after scolding her a little, she actually said she wouldn't come back, and she really didn't. And then why didn't you go find your daughter? Why did you come to my Feng Tian? Wu Hong asked. I don't even know where she is. Monarch, you must be joking. Yesterday I saw her in another continent. I wanted to forcefully bring her back, but... He seemed to have thought of something and frowned. Unfortunately, I met two troublesome sword immortals. I almost fell into their trap. If not for Imperial Lord Jija's presence and the divine artifact, the divine refining bell, Jija would have died. I barely managed to take them down. He sighed again before continuing, but that child took the opportunity when I was fighting with them to run away again. I searched for her for a whole day, but I couldn't find any trace of her. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. He glared fiercely at the small bell in his hand before continuing, I'm guessing that she must have been tricked by those two sword immortals during this period of time. She must have gone into hiding again. I heard that Monarch Wu Hong is on good terms with the monarchs of the immortal cultivation continent. I wonder if you can help me ask the immortals below to help me look for her? Wu Hong nodded. This was not a big deal. But since you've already captured those two sword immortals, why don't you just ask them where they are? Although I've captured them, this divine refining bell only activates once every 7 days. I can't release them for questioning right now. As he spoke, he turned his hand and a small silver bell appeared in his palm. There was a faint flicker of fire in the middle of the bell. If he had to wait for another 7 days, his daughter would have run away long ago. That's easy to solve, Wu Hong suggested. Blackbird suggested. The harpies have a heart inquisition formation that allows us to see the memories of others when they are weak. As long as we set up this array on this bell, we might be able to find out where your little princess is. That's great. Bai Ti was overjoyed. He hurriedly handed the bell over. Thank you, Monarch Wu Hong. Wu Hong took the bell. He could faintly sense the auras of two immortals within it. As he conjured a seal, he asked, Oh yes, who are the sword immortals in this bell? They seem to be extraordinary to be able to compete with you. I don't know either. I've never seen them before. Oh, I heard them say that they're from some invincible sect. Clang. Wu Hong's hand trembled. He threw the small bell in his hand away. Invincible. Invincible. Invincible sect. You're freaking kidding me? Wu Hong. Bai Ti was shocked. He hurriedly caught the divine refining bell. What's wrong with you? Before he could finish speaking, he saw that Wu Hong's face had turned pale. His hands were trembling like leaves in the wind. No. He must have been listening in the wrong direction. You say that again. Where are they from? Feng Tsang Invincible Sect. Boom. A bolt of lightning struck Wu Hong's heart. He felt as if his entire world had been burnt to a crisp. Pui, he felt as if he was going to vomit blood. Bai Ti. He suddenly grabbed Bai Ti's hand and said anxiously, Listen to me. Hurry, let them go right now. Hurry. Otherwise it'll be too late. What? Bai Ti looked confused. But this bell will take 7 days to, then smash it. Wu Hong was about to cry. Use immortal weapons, special lightning, primordial fire. Anything will do. Hurry up and let them go. But this is a divine artifact. What the hell is a divine artifact? Who cares about it now? Oh yes, you can use a divine artifact to smash it open. Wait, I'll give it to you. As he spoke, he took out a guqin and stuffed it into Bai Ti's hands. Wu Wangqin, here. Use this to smash it. Forget it, let me do it. With that, he raised the guqin in his hands and threw it into Bai Ti's hands. Wait, Emperor Wu. That's not how you should use a guqin. Just as the guqin was about to smash down, the bell in Bai Ti's hands suddenly emitted a blinding white light. The originally palm-sized bell began to grow larger and larger. Bai Ti had no choice but to throw it to the ground. In an instant, it had grown to the height of a human. Following that, there was a cracking sound. Cracks began to appear on the silver surface of the bell. The cracks began to spread across the entire surface of the bell. In a short span of 3 seconds, the cracks had covered the entire surface of the bell. This is... Bai Ti was shocked. My divine refinement. Before he could finish speaking, there was a loud crash. The silver bell broke into pieces. In an instant, a huge amount of sword chi covered the entire sky and attacked Bai Ti. Chapter 187. Celestial Emperor Wu Hong, Invincible Sect has always been on good terms with you, Feng Tian. The batch of immortal seeds you provided us was really good. Shining even specially asked us to thank you properly next time. We sincerely want to be friends with you. You're right, fellow immortal. Even that child Xian Tong misses the two celestial emperors and wants to visit you. This is all fate. We are all in the same realm. Since we are fated, we should cherish it, don't you think so? You're right, fellow immortal. Although Invincible Sect is not an immortal sect, we are still an immortal sect with principles. Our disciples are all kind and not people who cause trouble. But we are not people who are afraid of trouble. You're right, fellow immortal. Celestial Emperor wants to make friends, of course we can't say anything. But as the saying goes, cultivation is risky, we have to be careful when making friends. We can make friends that we should, but we shouldn't make friends that we shouldn't. You're right, fellow immortal. Actually, you're in Celestial Emperor. It doesn't matter if you don't have good relationships. Who can do anything to you? There's only one person who can do anything to you. Why do you have to make trouble for yourself? You're right, fellow immortal. As for that Celestial Emperor by T, Shining caught a fox demon that came to Invincible Sect to steal things. We found the words X and Han on her body and wanted to investigate. On the way there, Bai T didn't even ask for the reason. Instead, he attacked us and locked us in the bell. You know, our Invincible Sect can't stand people who are unreasonable. Fellow immortal, you're right. Therefore, today's matter of breaking the bell and this battle are all because we have no other choice. Don't you think so? Fellow immortal, you're right. I understand your logic, but why did you have to beat him up too? And you even hit him in the face. What happened to being reasonable? Most importantly, he didn't even dare to retaliate. Then today's matter. It's my fault. Wu Hong nodded vigorously. I didn't know the right person and made friends blindly. Celestial Emperor is indeed a reasonable person. In that case, Lone Moon was about to cut to the chase and talk about compensation. With a loud crash, a figure dressed in green fell into the pond beside them. It was Bai Ti, who had been beaten like a dog by Yi Qing. The huge sword Qi in the air stopped, and Yi Qing's figure landed. Then, he turned to look at Crow, who was kneeling by the side. Blackbird's entire body trembled. Without waiting for the other party to make a move, he immediately raised a hand and said, "Fellow immortal, please wait. I understand. After he finished speaking, he quickly stood up and walked to the side of the pool. With a clean leap, he fell into the pool with a splash. Yi Qing, who had no intention of beating him up. Lone Moon, who only wanted to blackmail Immortal Stones. It wasn't a good thing to meet teammates that were too cooperative. Tenzhou Hiyun Palace. Shining was about to fall asleep from waiting. I say that chicken. Chu Xian wanted to cry but no tears came out. So his name was confirmed as Chicken? Chicken is here. Are you sure you're leading us in the right direction? Shining looked at the sky palace in front of her, which had already been demolished. Yes, exalted goddess. I'm sure that this is Hiyun Palace. Bai Ti lives here. Oh, but we've already waited for 3 hours. Will that white chicken really come back? It's Bai Ti. Bai Ti is not in this heavenly palace. Even Jizha doesn't know where he went. That's why it's safest to wait here. Who's Jizha? Exalted goddess. Chu Xian's mouth twitched. He pointed at her feet and said, "The one you're stepping on is Emperor Jizha of the Changnua continent. Didn't you hear from the immortal officials that Bai Ti might have gone to look for Emperor Jizha of the Changnua continent? That's why you went to the neighboring continent to capture him and beat him up. Don't forget who he is just because you don't have a nickname." Shining retracted her foot and turned to sit on a rock beside her. So, how long do I have to wait? She was hungry. A day later. In the rear hall of the Invincible Sect. Smoke slowly rose from the kitchen. The wooden table in the courtyard was densely packed with more than a dozen fragrant dishes. Surprisingly, Shining was the only one sitting at the table. She was wolfing down the vegetables in front of her. There were more than 10 people in the courtyard. 4 of them were sitting on wooden stools. Although they were all emitting immortal chi, their feet were close together and their hands were on their knees. Their backs were ramrod straight. They were as well behaved as they could be. They were the 4 celestial emperors. No one spoke. The entire courtyard reverberated with the sound of people chewing on vegetables. Bai Ti. That's scary. The sword immortal who beat him is cutting meat. Is this a threat? Jizha. That's scary. The exalted goddess is eating meat. Is this a threat? Wu Hong. That's scary. The exalted goddess looks like she wants more food. Does she really want to eat him? Chu Xian. That's scary. Wait, why should he be afraid? Chu Xian. Why are you sitting there? Lone Moon glared at Chu Xian. Can't he tell that he's sitting at the defendant's stand? Chu Xian paused. Then he reacted. That's right. He didn't do anything wrong. Why was he sitting there? Damn. Chu Xian was used to sitting on the same level as the 10 celestial emperors. He stood up immediately and stood beside Lone Moon. Then he threw the white-furred fox beside him onto the bench. Jiao. Bai Ti's heart ached. He wanted to hug the fox beside him. But before he could do so, he retracted his hand and continued to sit there. Tell me, how do you intend to resolve this? Lone Moon rolled his eyes. He turned around and nudged Shining. We're dealing with serious matters. Sit over there. Don't get in the way. Shining paused. She stood up, only to find that all the other chairs had been moved to the defendant's stand. There was no chair left. Exalted goddess, I have a chair here. Chu Xian's eyes lit up. He immediately retrieved an armchair from his storage bag and put it down. Please have a seat. Thank you. Shining then sat down and continued to eat without any distractions. Yi Qing, who was about to move the chair. Little b****. Chu Xian, Why do I feel a chill down my spine? Exalted goddess. Fellow immortals, it's a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. Jizhe, who had been beaten up the most, tried to shift the blame to Bai Ti. Bai Qiao is the White Thearch's only daughter. The White Thearch went out to look for her because she did not return home for a long time. I met him by chance on the road. We really don't know each other well. Bai Ti. What a disloyal fellow. He glared at him, cupped his fists and said, I have indeed misunderstood the two of you. I saw Jiao Jiao in your hands and she was injured. I thought it was you. I attacked her in a moment of desperation. When I regained my senses, you were already locked up in the divine artifact. That's why. Now that things have come to this, no matter what you want to do with me, I am willing to accept it. And me, exalted goddess, me too. Jizhe immediately raised his hand. As long as they did not kill him, he would give up his position as the celestial emperor. The remaining Wu Hong, He looked back and forth between the two of them. Subconsciously he raised his hand as well. I didn't do anything. Is identical. If fellow immortals are willing to let my daughter and me go, no matter what you ask of us, Bai Zhao will do it. I don't want to go back. Before he could finish speaking, the fox demon, who had been curled into a ball, suddenly spoke up. Chapter 188. Jiao Jiao. Bai Ti chided her. Why was she still throwing a tantrum? No, I don't want to go back. Bai Qiao shook her head vigorously. Her voice was full of panic. It wasn't easy for me to find the spirit convening lamp. As long as I have it, I can definitely. Jiao Jiao. Bai Ti's voice deepened as he interrupted her. He said angrily, Why are you so stubborn? Celestial Emperor Xian Han will never like you. So what if you found the spirit convening lamp? It won't change anything. But he's injured. Bai Qiao argued anxiously. His primordial spirit is injured. That's why he doesn't feel anything for me. As long as he recovers, he will understand who is the best person for him. AI, you know what cultivation technique he's using. Why are you lying to yourself? Bai Ti sighed and continued to persuade her. Jiao Jiao, listen to me. Give up and go back with me. I, Bai Zhao, have so many immortals. There will definitely be someone better than him. But none of them are Xian Han. Bai Qiao's eyes reddened. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She turned and grabbed Bai Ti's sleeve. Father, I beg you. Can you help me borrow the spirit convening lamp? I promise this will be the last time. 300 years ago, you said the same thing. Bai Ti's expression hardened. He looked helpless. But what happened in the end? All these years, because of a man who doesn't love you, you've fallen from a Stygian immortal to a second-stage demon. Don't tell me you're really going to throw your life away for him? Have you ever thought about what I will do if you leave? Bai Qiao was stunned. But the tiny glimmer of hope in her eyes shone brightly. Father, I'm unfilial, but I've only had one wish since I was young. I'll be careful. I'll be fine. As long as I have the spirit convening lamp, as long as... Think about it. He's a celestial emperor. Why would he need you to help him recover his primordial spirit? Even without the spirit convening lamp, he can still recover. Besides, Bai Ti reminded her. Even if his primordial spirit recovers, he won't feel anything for you. Bai Qiao stood rooted to the ground. Bai Ti's heart ached. He summoned a strand of immortal chi and sent it into the white fox's body to help it transform. A moment later, a white-robed young girl appeared beside him. Willowy eyebrows, phoenix-like eyes and cherry-like lips. As expected of a fox's transformation, her appearance was very distinctive. However, his eyes seemed to be filled with melancholy that could not be dispelled. It was as if tears would gush out in the next moment. Jiao Jiao. Bai Ti sighed and continued to persuade her. You know that he cultivates the heartless Tao and has a heart of stone. Who in the celestial world didn't know that in order to sever all relationships and cut out his own heart, he became a celestial emperor? He's a heartless person and doesn't understand what love is. No matter how much you help him, the result will be the same. But, Bai Qiao burst into tears again. After transforming into her human form, she looked even more pitiful, as if she was about to faint from crying. I can't let him go, I really can't. Father, I only have you. I beg you, can you help me borrow the spirit convening lamp? I promise this will be the last time. Take it that we're father and daughter. Before she could finish her sentence, the space in front of her darkened. She was kicked away. She transformed back into her fox form and rolled down the mountain. His unfinished words were still lingering on his lips. Girl, donkey. She rolled all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Shining, who was still holding the bowl of rice in one hand, retracted her leg and said slowly, noisy. Lone Moon, I Ching, the four emperors, everyone, wow. They did not know why the sect master had suddenly attacked them. But what's with this inexplicably awesome feeling? Shining sat back down calmly and continued eating her rice. It was as if she was not the one who had rushed out to kick Bai Qiao. She did not want to hear such a sadomasochistic story. It would affect her appetite. Jiao. Bai Ti finally reacted. He turned to glare at Shining and stepped forward angrily. You, stop. 3 Before he could finish speaking, Wu Hong, Jizha and Chu Xian, who was standing beside Lone Moon, rushed forward and pressed Bai Ti to the ground. Holy shit. Even if you want to die, don't implicate us. Chu Xian, wait. Why did he come? You woo. Bai Ti wanted to speak, but his mouth was sealed by the 3 of them. He turned to look at I Ching, who was helping to lay out the dishes. Then, as if recalling something, he suppressed the anger in his heart. Although he was worried about his daughter, this was not a place where he could lose his temper. Seeing that he had calmed down, the 3 of them released him. Fellow immortal. Bai Ti took a deep breath and looked at the person who seemed to be in charge of the invincible sect, Lone Moon. I have offended you in the past. My daughter's act of stealing the lamp was indeed inappropriate. But, you have seen for yourself that this lamp is very important to her. I wonder if... I won't lend it to you. Before Lone Moon could reply, Shining unexpectedly rejected him. I know that divine artifacts are not like other Dharma artifacts, but if fellow immortal can agree, I am willing to pay any price even if... Bai Ti still felt sorry for his daughter. Gritting his teeth, he continued, if you want me to give you a divine artifact in exchange, I can do that. As he spoke, he turned his hand and a small silver bell appeared in his hand. It was the divine refining bell. However, there were already many cracks on the clock. Lamp? Before Shining could finish speaking, Lone Moon reached out and covered her mouth. Nodding, he said, all right. Bai Ti was overjoyed. But your divine refining bell is already damaged. I can only lend you the lamp for 10 days. Lone Moon continued, what's more, borrowing the lamp has nothing to do with what happened before. He had to pay what he had to pay. Thank you, fellow immortal. Lone Moon continued to discuss the specific compensation for this misunderstanding incident with the few of them. He harshly shaved off a sum of money from the 3 of them before waving his hand and letting the few bosses who had spent a lot of money leave. What do you want this broken bell for? Feng Ying could not help but ask. Although it could still be used, its power had been greatly reduced. Don't tell me you know how to repair it? I don't, but Sun Shu does. This divine artifact was made by his race. How worth it was to borrow a broken lamp in exchange for a divine artifact. Other than being convinced, he could not say anything else. Oh yes, what happened to you? Lone Moon turned to look at Shining. Why did you suddenly kick that fox demon? She was not someone who had so much free time in the past. Did I? She had clearly kicked it naturally. It was not sudden at all. Maybe. I suddenly understand my sister a little. Lone Moon was shocked. You have a sister? Shining suddenly trembled. Even her lazy body straightened. A strange expression flashed across her face. She lowered her voice and said, I don't think so, Chapter 189. The three celestial emperors left. Father Nyo had made a big deal. No one knew exactly how they talked about it. Judging from how he nonchalantly approved Xin Ying's unlimited requests for supper in the future, it must be a large sum. Father Nyo arranged for Lan Hua to stay at the back of the mountain to look after the large immortal herb field. His main task was to water the immortal herbs. Perhaps it was because they had developed some revolutionary friendship during those few days in the heavens beyond heaven that Radish, who had always disliked all males, actually did not object. The two of them worked well together. One watered the herbs while the other helped Lan Hua refine them into pills of various grades. The two of them managed to take care of an entire production line, freeing up the entire sect's labor force and causing the disciples' cultivation levels to increase rapidly. Chu Xian did not leave either. After paying a sum of money for food, he planned to stay here for a long time. At first, he followed Lan Hua around all day, wanting to bring him back to Hechuan to repay his debt of gratitude. After a few days of hard work, there was no result at all. Everyone in the sect looked at him more and more strangely. Every time he went to the back mountain, he would attract a crowd of onlookers. Occasionally, people would even cheer him on. At first, he was a little confused. Then, after spending a bunch of immortal stones, he found out from Lone Moon what it meant to be a gay friend. That made him feel terrible. What AF * king gay friend? What exactly is your sect teaching you on a daily basis? What he liked was a cute girl. Was a girl good? To prove that he was a straight man, Chu Xian felt that he had to do something. So he chose to do what every straight man would do. He bragged to the girls in the sect. Straight face. Every day he worked hard to dig up all kinds of gossip about the 80 celestial emperors. He was the one who told everyone about Bai Qiao and Xian Han's relationship. The story was quite long. It had to start with the divine artifact of Yufeng immortal realm. Tens of thousands of years ago. Bai Qiao was a Stygian immortal and Bai Ti's daughter. Although Bai Ti was not a celestial emperor at that time, he was only an immortal emperor. But Bai Qiao was also a famous heavenly beauty in the immortal realm. The immortals who wanted to be her Dao partner could be lined up from Bai Zhao to Feng Tsang. But when the divine artifact divine refining bell appeared, Bai Zhao fell into internal strife. Although Bai Ti managed to subdue the bell and become a celestial emperor, his daughter Bai Qiao was accidentally knocked down to the lower realm. That was when she met Xian Han, who was still a cultivator in the lower realm. She had saved the damsel in distress and fallen in love with him. Bai Qiao followed Xian Han back to the upper realm. The two of them had a sweet time together. It was said that they even wanted to become Dao companions. Bai Ti did not want his daughter to marry a newly ascended earth immortal. But for some reason Xian Han suddenly became a Xian Han. His cultivation base kept rising. In just a few thousand years he had reached the ascendant immortal stage. Bai Ti naturally did not object. However, the relationship between the two of them had become problematic. Those who cultivated the heartless Dao would slowly lose all sorts of emotions. Xian Han's attitude towards Bai Qiao grew colder and colder. The two lovers drifted further and further apart. In the end, Xian Han decided to dismember his own heart in order to achieve a breakthrough. But Bai Qiao refused to give up. In order to save Xian Han's life, she used up all her cultivation to repair his heart meridians. In the end, Xian Han survived and became a celestial emperor. Bai Qiao, however, became a second-level demon fox. Fate makes a fool out of us. That's why Bai Qiao could not let go of Xian Han. She wanted him to remember the feelings between them. Unfortunately, after so many years, Xian Han is still unmoved by her. I can only say, they're fated but not meant to be. Back then many people in the immortal realm sighed. Chu Xian heaved a long sigh. He looked at the surrounding girls who were listening to the gossip and said seriously, "If it were me, I would never let my woman be sad. Did you see that? My manhood. I like girls." Everyone sighed. They understood why Bai Qiao was so stubborn. After all, they were once so in love. They could not help but feel sorry for the loss of their relationship. Except for Shening, as she munched on her snacks, she suddenly said, "Chicken, is this what it means to be fated but not meant to be?" Chu Xian pursed his lips. Could she not call it chicken? Isn't it supposed to be fated but not meant to be? Xian Han switched to the heartless Dao because of Bai Qiao. Now that his cultivation level has increased, the two of them can no longer be together. So, according to your logic, Shining continued lazily, that whatever Han is a retard? He was stunned. What did she mean? Where did that come from? He knows that this cultivation technique is not good, but he still practices it. Isn't that retarded? Was she supposed to praise him for being smart? That did not make sense, right? That seemed to make sense. But this cultivation technique does increase one's cultivation level quickly. The more one cultivates the heartless Tao, the weaker one's feelings become. What's more, he has no heart. Without a heart, he would not understand love. It's normal that he no longer likes Bai Qiao. What does this have to do with having a heart? Does it? Is it? Is it true or not? Big boss, you're right. Scientifically speaking. Xining grabbed the fruit on the table and took another bite. She continued, at the end of the day, the feelings between a man and a woman arise when they meet a specific person. Their bodies begin to secrete phenylethylamine, dopamine, norepinephrine, and other hormones. This makes them feel happy, excited, and in love. This is the so-called love. The production of these hormones all comes from the brain. It has nothing to do with the heart. Although he did not understand, it sounded impressive. Love or not, if it comes from the heart. She scanned the crowd. Have you considered the feelings of a patient with a heart disease? That made sense. They had nothing to say. So whether he has a heart or not, whether he is a heartless person, and whether he likes that little animal or not are two different things. Xining patted the pastry crumbs on her hands. In other words, there's a problem with your logic. That Han person did not stop liking little animals because of the heartless Tao. He stopped liking her, so he cultivated the heartless Tao. The crowd fell silent. Chu Xian. What did the exalted goddess just say? Why was he the only one who did not understand? But it seemed to make sense. All the disciples. They did not understand at all, but what the sect master said must be right. Thus, without any hesitation, everyone present tacitly gave a label to a certain celestial emperor they had never met before. Scumbag. Lone Moon was the only one who understood. He suddenly felt that all the heartless male protagonists in his novels were all King retarded. Straight face, huh? Wait a minute. This was a martial arts arena. Why was everyone listening to gossip? Lone Moon's expression darkened. He was wondering if he should increase the accommodation fees of a certain chicken, who was seducing a girl. Suddenly the ground shook. The entire invincible sect shook. A huge wave of immortal qi rose from the foot of the mountain. The protective mountain array was activated. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. Before Xining could go forward to check, Roasted Chicken Gal hurriedly ran in, grabbed Xin Ying's hand and said anxiously, "Little Ling, something happened to Xian Tong." Chapter 190. This is the heavenly tribulation. Lone Moon looked at the foot of the mountain and asked anxiously, "Roasted chicken? Pui Qingyu, what's happening down there?" Nobody in the sect had reached the stage where they were about to undergo the heavenly tribulation. "It's Xian Tong," Qi Qingyu said anxiously. "I saw that she was about to form her immortal bones, so I've been guarding her these few days. Just now, her immortal bones were formed, but for some reason the heavenly tribulation was triggered." "How is that possible?" Lone Moon's expression changed. "Even if she formed her immortal bones, she's just an earth immortal. This is not the lower realm, there can't be the lightning tribulation. There were so many disciples in the sect and they were all low-level cultivators. None of them had triggered the heavenly tribulation when they were earth immortals." "I don't know either," Qi Qingyu said anxiously. "Her cultivation level is indeed just at the edge of earth immortal, but the heavenly tribulation suddenly came. Feng Ying is outside helping Xian Tong set up an array, hoping to hold it off for a while." Just as she finished speaking, there was a loud rumble of thunder. A bolt of lightning struck from the sky, heading straight for the foot of the mountain. "It's starting." Qingyu's expression became even more worried. Xian Tong might not be able to pass through the heavenly tribulation, but at this rate, the lightning would definitely affect the people in the sect. "Let's go take a look." Xining got up and was about to rush down. "Come back here." Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He pointed behind him and said, "The way down the mountain is this way." Xining turned around and thought for a moment. Then she pulled a disciple over and instructed, "Little Green, go and get Boss Lan to come over too." "Yes." Then he followed the group towards the heavenly tribulation. The closer they got to where Xian Tong was in seclusion, the stronger the immortal qi around them became. The immortal qi at the foot of the mountain was even showing signs of solidifying. But unlike when Roasted Chicken Gal and the rest ascended, the immortal qi did not form an immortal ascension stage. Feng Ying was standing at the foot of the mountain, supporting a defensive array to protect Xian Tong. But he was not an expert in array formations after all. The array was already showing signs of collapsing. Then, with a thunderous boom, the second bolt of lightning came crashing down. The spell formation was shattered, and the tribulation lightning directly smashed into Xiantong's body. She was not a body cultivator. Even though she was prepared, she was still struck until she spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the immortal bones in her body became more solid. Little Tong. Qi Qingyu called out worriedly, growing more anxious by the minute. Moss. Xiantong looked back and her eyes suddenly lit up. Divine. Sect Master. After being in seclusion for nearly a year, she had clearly grown up. He looked straight at Shining, his whole body seemed to light up. Don't be distracted, focus on dealing with the tribulation. Lone Moon reminded. All the best. Shining also said. Yes. Xiantong's expression turned solemn, as if she was filled with courage in an instant. She closed her eyes and focused on circulating the immortal energy in her body. The wounds on her body that had just been struck began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the next moment, the third bolt of tribulation lightning fell. Lone Moon hurriedly set up a few array formations to prevent the tribulation lightning from affecting Invincible Sect. He also let Fonging out. Now that the heavenly tribulation had arrived, it looked like it could not be stopped midway. Although he did not know what was going on, Xiantong could only deal with the tribulation. But this lightning? He looked up at the rolling thunderclouds in the sky and frowned. This doesn't seem like the 9-9 lightning tribulation for ascension. Indeed not, I Ching replied casually. The immortal realm naturally does not have the lightning tribulation for ascension. So, this can't be the heavenly tribulation of a golden immortal, right? Yes. I Ching nodded. Shit. Lone Moon was a little worried. He looked at Xiantong, who was in the midst of the lightning tribulation. With a body that was not even an earth immortal, to withstand the heavenly tribulation of a golden immortal, even a body cultivator would not be able to do so. How long had she been cultivating? She's clearly just ascending to an earth immortal. There are so many disciples in the sect, why is she the only one who has the heavenly tribulation? Lone Moon could not understand. What happened to the halo of the female lead? The female lead was treated like this? Did the author know? Just as he was thinking, Lan Hua, whom Shining had just told him to look for, was already flying over with Radish on his back. He was originally at the back of the mountain, so he arrived very quickly. Good heart, why did you call me? Little big sister. After making friends, Radish, who had already upgraded from an accessory on his feet to an accessory on his back, jumped off Lan Hua's back and did a jumping motion. Then like a bullet he charged toward Shining. Then, he plunged headfirst into the mud behind her. Shining, who had taken a step away, calmly waved at Lan Hua. Boss Lan, come over and take a look. Look at what? Lan Hua looked confused. Everyone looked confused too. What's so good about the heavenly tribulation? He suddenly paused and looked at the person in the lightning tribulation with some surprise. Who is this lady? Why is there demonic chi on her? The others might not be able to see it, but as a demon he was very familiar with demonic chi. Although it was very little, the lady was clearly surrounded by a faint trace of demonic chi, and it was emitted from her body. But she was clearly an immortal cultivator. Demonic chi. Lone Moon was shocked. Recalling Xiantong's identity, he also realized why Shining had called Lan Hua over. Could it be because of this that she attracted the heavenly tribulation when she ascended to become an earth immortal? She's an earth immortal? Lan Hua paused for a moment, then nodded with a look of understanding. It's very possible. This is also the first time I've seen such a situation. By right, the two auras of immortals and demons repel each other and cannot exist at the same time. But she has both. Maybe that's why she attracted the heavenly tribulation when she ascended to immortality. The lightning tribulation should be striking the demonic chi on her body. Indeed, every time a bolt of lightning struck, the demonic chi around her body dissipated a little. Lan Hua looked carefully for a moment, then frowned and said, but her demonic chi seems to be emitted from her primordial spirit. If the lightning tribulation wants to completely disperse the demonic chi on her body, unless disperse the primordial spirit. I Ching finished. Lan Hua nodded. Instantly, everyone's expression darkened, especially Qi Qingyu, who became even more anxious. Who exactly is this lady? Is she a demon? Lan Hua could not help but ask. Her primordial spirit was tainted with demonic chi, but her dantian was full of immortal chi and her cultivation technique was also an immortal technique. I've heard of demons falling to the demonic path, but I've never heard of demons becoming immortal cultivators. Do you have a way? Lone Moon asked directly. I do. Lan Hua looked troubled. But it's more troublesome. What way? Qi Qingyu asked anxiously. Draw the demonic qi on her body to me. He was not afraid of having too much demonic qi. But I need to come into contact with her primordial spirit in order to completely cleanse her of demonic qi. Qi Qingyu was overjoyed. Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, please save little Tong. No. Lan Hua rejected her immediately. I don't know her that well, and if I want to save her, I'll have to go into the lightning tribulation and be struck together with her. I won't, boss, save her. Shining interrupted. All right. Lan Hua did not even have time to react before he plunged into the lightning tribulation. Everyone, Motherf asterisk Kerr, he hated this kind heart. Chapter 191. Lan Hua's sudden appearance caused the lightning tribulation to strike them even more violently. But this was only a golden immortal's heavenly tribulation. To a former celestial emperor like Lan Hua, this did not affect him at all. Instead, he helped Shen Tong block a lot of the lightning tribulation. He sat cross-legged behind Shen Tong, demonic qi surging around his body. His divine perception was just about to draw out the demonic qi from her body when Shen Tong sealed her 5 senses, subconsciously preventing the foreign aura from approaching. Good Heart asked me to save you, Lan Hua explained. Then after some thought he added, it was your sect master. Shen Tong hesitated, then gave up resisting and allowed his divine perception to enter her body. A moment later Lan Hua found the source of her demonic qi. He was slightly shocked. Why was there the aura of a demonic seed in her body? He did not think too much about it. He tried his best to draw out the demonic qi from her body. Although she was cooperating with him, the lightning tribulation would strike from time to time. Her speed was not very fast. But the remaining demonic qi in Shen Tong's body was indeed decreasing. They did not know if it was an illusion, but as the demonic qi disappeared, Shen Tong's immortal bones were growing faster. An hour later, Lan Hua finally drew out the last bit of demonic qi from her body. He stood up and left the area of the heavenly tribulation. It's done. He looked at Shening and said, the demonic qi in her primordial spirit has been cleared. She just needs to endure the last few bolts of lightning and she will be able to form her immortal bones. Thank you, Celestial Emperor Lan Hua. Qingyu stepped forward and bowed. Then she heaved a sigh of relief. Shen Tong had been brought up by her. Naturally, she was more nervous than anyone else. As the sect master, Shening felt that she should express her gratitude. Elder Lan, don't speak. Lan Hua immediately interrupted. Please, every time you speak, I want to give you something. He did not want to be left with only his underwear. Shening, Qingyu, everyone, the lightning tribulation is ending soon. Lone Moon reminded them. Everyone turned to look. Indeed, the immortal qi around Shen Tong was getting thicker and thicker. The lightning tribulation was getting stronger and stronger. Even the array that Lone Moon had specially set up was showing signs of loosening. Lightning was faintly shining from the outside. Celestial Emperor Chu Xian, help me. Lone Moon turned to Chu Xian as he rearranged the array. Chu Xian was straightforward. He and Lone Moon set up the array, one on the left and one on the right. Waves of magical light flashed before his eyes, once again blocking the remaining might of the heavenly lightning outside. At this time, 79 bolts of lightning had struck down, and there were only 2 left. Perhaps it was because Lan Hua had helped her block a portion of the heavenly lightning, but Shen Tong was in a pretty good state. 2 of the strongest golden immortal heavenly lightning bolts came crashing down on her, but she managed to withstand it. Even though his entire body had been burnt to a crisp and he was lying on the ground on his last breath, his immortal bones had already grown back. In fact, because he had transcended the tribulation, the immortal energy around him was slightly denser than other body cultivators of the same cultivation level. It's fine now. Qi Qingyu heaved a long sigh of relief and exited the array formation. She walked over, her voice tinged with joy. Little you, don't go over there. She was just about to exit the array formation when Feng Ying suddenly pulled her back. The next moment, a bolt of heavenly fire descended from the sky at a speed faster than the heavenly lightning. It struck the heavily injured Shen Tong on the ground. The system notification on Feng Ying's body also ended. Danger warning. Detected a high-heat energy object approaching. In less than 2 breaths' time, the entire protective mountain array was engulfed in a sea of fire. The entire invincible sect was dyed crimson. Wildfire. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. How is this possible? Why did the wildfire appear? Although an immortal's advancement would produce 36 bolts of wildfire, Xian Tong was only an immortal. Moreover, she was the lowest level earth immortal. The bit of immortal qi in her body could not possibly attract the wildfire. What's more, the demonic qi in her body had been cleared. She was now a real immortal. The last few bolts of lightning could be attributed to the fact that the heavenly tribulation had been triggered and she had to endure it. But what was with the wildfire? Xian Tong's figure was no longer in the flames. Even her weak aura could not be felt. Little Tong. Qingyu cried out. She was about to rush in to save her when Feng Ying held her back. Wait, little you. If you go in, the power of the heavenly tribulation will double. You're only a golden immortal. You won't be able to withstand it. But Xian Tong. If this goes on, she will die. She looked anxious. Seeing that the next bolt of wildfire was about to descend, she turned to look at the person behind her. Elder Lone Moon, what exactly? Lone Moon looked confused as well. I don't know either. Where's Shining? Only then did everyone realize that Shining, who had been standing beside them, had disappeared. At that moment, in the heart of the wildfire, Shining helped up the charcoal that no longer looked human. She patted its face and said, "Hey Shorty, are you still alive?" After a while, that piece of charcoal finally glanced at her. It seemed to have used all the strength in its body to move its fingers, and gently tugged at the corner of her clothes. God. In the next moment, its hand fell and there was no more movement. Shorty. Xian Tong did not respond at all. Shining frowned. In the next moment, there was a whirring sound above their heads. A huge red fireball descended from the sky and smashed directly in their direction. It carried with it a pressure that could destroy heaven and earth. The scorching heat caused everything on the ground to ignite before it even hit the ground. It looked like it was about to hit the two of them. Xin Ying's expression turned cold. The anger in her heart rose. She carried the person on the ground and stood up. Lifting her leg, she kicked the fireball back like she was kicking a ball. Get lost. You're blind. You're throwing fire at me. With a swoosh, the heavenly fire flew back into the sky at a speed 10 times faster than when it had landed. It burrowed into the clouds. The next moment there was a loud rumble. It was as if something had exploded in the sky. The thunderclouds that had yet to disperse were instantly ignited like flammable explosives. The sky was suddenly lit up with a sea of fire, turning the entire world red. Shining turned to look at the sea of fire around her. Her eyes narrowed. In an instant, the surrounding flames seemed to shrink. The prairie fire surrounding the two of them retreated, revealing a path. Only then did she turn around and walk away with the charred body in her arms. After a while, she changed her direction and walked back to the mountain guarding formation that was not far away. Lone Moon, I Ching. The two emperors, the couple, speaking of which, what exactly happened inside just now? Why did the sky suddenly catch fire? Why did the fire on the ground suddenly extinguish? And could the heavenly tribulation be interrupted midway? Shining placed Xian Tong on the ground and waved at Chu Xian. Chicken, come and take a look. Chu Xian trembled. Then he reacted. Chicken is here. He hurried over and performed an incantation gesture to cast a heart protection incantation on the man on the ground, protecting his heart and meridians. Then he used his immortal qi to examine him carefully. However, the more he examined, the deeper his frown became. He looked hesitantly at the crowd and only after a long moment did he speak. Exalted goddess. When her immortal bones were formed, she was already at the end of her rope. She was just hanging on to her last breath. He sighed. He admired this lady's perseverance. She could have recovered by just regulating her breathing. But she was hit by the prairie fire. Moreover, she was not prepared and the deviant fire entered her body. Now that the prairie fire has invaded her heart meridians, and she has a water spirit root. Water and fire do not mix. She cannot regulate her own breathing. The result. Chu Xian shook his head and continued, her meridians are all broken. Her foundation is destroyed. Her immortal bones are broken. Even her primordial spirit has been corroded by the prairie fire. It will be very difficult for her to recover. And even if she recovers, I'm afraid, her cultivation will be destroyed. Chapter 192. Everyone fell silent. They had always known that this child was unlucky, but they did not expect her to be this unlucky. Qingyu could not take it anymore. Her body swayed as she tried to hold back the tears in her eyes. She was the one who taught Xian Tong her cultivation. All these years, no one knew better than her how hard Xian Tong had worked. She had long regarded Xian Tong as her only disciple, but now, Lonmun's expression did not look too good. He turned to look at Shining, who was standing there in deep thought. Then he instructed Chu Xian, send her back to the side hall first. Chu Xian picked up the person on the ground and flew back to the side hall where the invincible sect disciples were staying. Yu Hong. Lonmun glanced at Chu Xian, who was treating Xian Tong's injuries. He pulled the red-robed girl aside and said, "Go to the capital and ask the richest man in the city, exalted immortal Xu Jiang, to come over. I remember he is a famous immortal doctor. He might have a way." "Yes, elder." Yu Hong turned to go out. "Wait." Lonmun thought for a moment and added, "If you can't find him, go to the war-stopping palace and look for Sun Shu. He is the emperor now, he should be of some use. Tell him Shining said it." "I understand." Yu Hong nodded and flew away on her sword. A month later, Chu Xian had the highest cultivation level among all the immortals here. With him around, Xian Tong's condition had stabilized. Her injuries had also healed. Her skin color had returned to normal. Although Chu Xian was a celestial emperor, he did not know much about medicine. His only expertise was in array formations. Lan Hua might have learned a lot, but he was still a fiendish cultivator. Even if he got close to Xian Tong, he could affect her, much less help her. That was why he stayed in the back mountain with Radish for the past few days. Perhaps because her injuries were too serious, Xian Tong did not wake up. When Yu Hong brought Xu Jiang back for treatment, Xu Jiang said the same thing as Chu Xian. But after a few days of treatment, Xian Tong started to wake up. Finally, a month later, she opened her eyes. Little Tong. Qi Qingyu, who had been watching over her for a month, was the first to pounce on her. She scanned her from head to toe and asked worriedly, "How are you?" The person on the bed was stunned for a moment. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Her face was immediately dyed with a panicked expression. Qingyu hurriedly comforted him. "You're seriously injured, you need to recuperate slowly. It's normal to not be able to speak for a while." The person on the bed shook her head as if she was in a hurry to say something. "Don't worry." Qingyu stroked her head and said slowly, "With the sect master, the elders and the celestial emperor around, you will be fine." Only then did Xian Tong turn around subconsciously. "Hey, little shorty." Shining waved in greeting. However, the person on the bed trembled violently and looked at her with wide eyes. He almost fell off the bed. Fortunately, Qingyu caught him. "Don't be agitated. Little Ing is here to see you." Qingyu smiled. As a member of her Fangirl group, she could naturally understand her feelings. After all, she had been in seclusion for a long time in order to ascend to immortality. Unfortunately, everyone, this fairy still needs to recuperate. "Why don't?" Xu Jiang gave the few people a look, indicating for them to leave. Everyone understood. Lone Moon nodded at Qingyu, then led the whole house of people out. "Rest well?" Shining also instructed. She glanced at the person on the bed who had shrunk herself under the blanket. She turned and followed Father Nyo out. Passing by the window, she touched it casually. Her hand was covered in dust. She paused for a moment, then stepped out of the room. The few of them returned to the front hall. Xu Jiang wiped the sweat off his forehead and bowed respectfully to the few people. "Celestial Emperor, two young emperors. Although fellow immortal Xian has awakened, her primordial spirit and destroyed foundation are extremely difficult to repair. I'm also powerless." "Even the spirit convening lamp won't work?" Lone Moon asked anxiously. Wasn't the spirit convening lamp able to repair an immortal's primordial spirit? This. Shu Han looked troubled. Fellow immortal Xian's injury was caused by the prairie fire entering her body. In addition, her spirit root is resistant to the fire, so the longer it lasts, the more serious it becomes. Although the spirit convening lamp can repair the primordial spirit, as long as the blazing qi in her body is not expelled, this injury will recur. The spirit convening lamp cannot cure the root cause. Repairing it without permission will only cause her to suffer more pain. Lone Moon frowned. Now he was really sure that Xian Tong was not some evil female lead. For a female lead to behave like this, it would lower the standard of the female lead's halo. Is there really no other way? Xian Tong was a disciple of the sect after all. If the halo of a female lead could not protect her as a nanny, Pui, as an elder, of course he had to take responsibility. Xu Jiang glanced at Chu Xian and said hesitantly, "There is one way." "What way?" "Have you heard of the Luohan stone, young emperor?" "What the hell?" Luo Han stone. Chu Xian was shocked. You mean Yi Shui Xian Han's Luo Han stone? That's right. Xu Jiang nodded. It's Celestial Emperor Xian Han's divine artifact, the Luo Han stone. Since the Celestial Emperor of Hechuan was here, perhaps they could really borrow it. It is said that this item is the coldest thing in the world. It can freeze the sea in an instant. It is the nemesis of the blazing qi in fellow immortal Xian's body. We can draw it out of her body and then repair her foundation. Celestial Emperor Xian Han. Lone Moon frowned. He did not expect to be brought back to this scumbag again. Previously, it was the fox demon who borrowed the spirit convening lamp to save him. This time, it was their turn to borrow the Luo Han stone. What goes around comes around. Thank you, exalted immortal Shu. Lone Moon bowed to Xu Jiang. Young Emperor, you are too kind. Xu Jiang hurriedly returned the bow. After some thought he added, oh yes, fellow immortal Shen's condition is inconvenient for her to move. It would be best if you could borrow the Luo Han stone. Also, this cannot be delayed. Otherwise, even if the blazing qi is removed, it will be difficult to repair her foundation. Alright, we'll remember that. Lone Moon nodded. Xu Jiang gave a few more instructions, then continued to look at Xian Tong in the side hall. It looks like we have to make a trip there. This matter cannot be delayed. Shining, we are now. Shining? Shining. Lone Moon pushed the person next to him who was still holding the fruit. Shining faltered. She lost her grip on the fruit and dropped it. Yi Qing, who was beside her, hurriedly handed her a new one. What are you doing? Why are you in a daze? Lone Moon glanced at her, confused. She even forgot to eat the fruit. How rare. What's wrong with you these few days? I feel like you've been acting strange since the day of Xian Tong's heavenly tribulation. Master? Yi Qing looked over worriedly. Your appetite these few days has also decreased by 1%. Do you have to be so precise? Straight face, Lone Moon seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened. You didn't find out anything else, did you? Not really. Shining tilted her head. A moment later, she sat up straight and looked at the two seriously. Chef Father Nyo. Don't you think? Wait. Lone Moon suddenly raised his hand and gestured for her to stop. Don't say it now. What? Lone Moon said seriously. Every time you speak seriously, I feel like I have to add an epiphany buff. We still have to rush to Yi Shui. We don't have time to pause. We'll talk about it when I'm ready. Yi Qing, Xu Xian, Shining, son of AB *TC. Chapter 193. The Yi Shui continent was in the northernmost part of the immortal realm. It was different from Fengcang, where it was spring all year round. It was a snow-white world of ice and snow. Along the way they saw very little green. Apart from the snow, there was only the boundless sea beside them. Because they were in a hurry to save someone, the three did not linger on the continent. They headed straight for the heavens beyond heaven's Yi Shui palace. Along the way they did not see many immortal officials. It was rather quiet. With the pass that Chu Xian gave them, they arrived at the heavenly palace's entrance without any obstructions. After a brief explanation of their purpose to the immortal official, someone went in to inform the immortal official. Not long after, someone came out to greet them and greeted them. The Celestial Emperor invites you in. Without another word, he led them towards the main hall. There was a person sitting in the hall. He was dressed in white and his long hair was tied up high. His angular face looked very righteous, but his eyes were as cold as ice. It was as if one look at them would cause ice and snow to float out. He did not have the slightest bit of humanity, only a coldness that came from his bones. From his aura he must be the Celestial Emperor Xian Han. Greetings, Celestial Emperor. The three bowed politely. The person above glanced at the three of them, his eyes still emotionless. After a while, he opened the door and said in a cold tone, You are from Invincible's sect? That's right. Lone Moon habitually put on a business-like expression. Xian Han seemed to have thought of something. He frowned and said coldly, I remember. I sent someone to send the spirit convening lamp back to Fengcang. Celestial Emperor, you misunderstand. We have indeed received the lamp. Lone Moon continued, We are not here to ask for the spirit convening lamp. Oh? Why is that? Lone Moon smiled even more warmly. It's like this. One of our disciples had some problems during his tribulation, causing the qi of the flames to enter his body. We thought of many ways but could not get rid of it, so. You want to borrow the Luo Han stone? Xian Han said directly. His voice was still cold but his brows furrowed. That's right, we are here for the Luohan stone. Lone Moon had already guessed that it would not be so easy to borrow it. He tried his best to calm his tone and said seriously, I also know that this is a divine artifact, but we are eager to save people. As long as the Celestial Emperor agrees, we are willing to exchange the divine refining bell for it. If the Empyrean Lord is worried, we can go together. As he spoke, he raised his hand and a small bell covered in cracks appeared in his hand. He had been too busy these few days and had not had the time to send it to Sun Shu for repairs. He wouldn't feel the pinch even if he gave it away. Xian Han's expression did not change. He glanced at the divine refining bell in Lone Moon's hand. A moment later he continued, Everyone lent me the spirit convening lamp to help me recover my primordial spirit. I should agree to all kinds of requests, and the Luohan stone is indeed in this heavenly palace. It's just that, it's not convenient to lend it to you. What do you mean by that, Celestial Emperor? Lone Moon paused. If he wanted to borrow it, he wanted to borrow it. If he didn't want to borrow it, he didn't want to borrow it. What did he mean by it being inconvenient? Xian Han's frown deepened. His expressionless face darkened. Suddenly he sighed and stood up. As he turned and walked towards the back of the palace, he said, Everyone follow me and you will understand. Lone Moon and the others exchanged a look and followed him. Xian Han led them through a sea of clouds towards an independent immortal palace. As he flew on his sword, he explained to them. That day I was still recovering from my injuries. Fairy Baiqiao brought the spirit convening lamp. My primordial spirit was at its most unstable. To stabilize my primordial spirit, she forcibly lit the spirit convening lamp and used the soul subduing technique. So, he waved his hand and the doors of the immortal palace opened automatically. A gust of cold white qi rushed towards them. Even Lone Moon and Yi Qing, who were young emperors, could not help but be shocked by the cold qi. The inside of the immortal palace was already snow-white, and the ground inside was covered with thick ice. A person lay on the platform in the middle of the layer of ice. She was dressed in a pink fairy dress and seemed to be asleep. They could feel a faint aura emanating from her. Baiqiao, Lone Moon exclaimed. A few months ago she was still alive and kicking, stealing lights. How did she become like this? Her breathing was weak, as if she could die at any moment. Her cultivation level is too low. She forced herself to use the divine artifact and the soul-subduing technique. That's why her sorcery backfired and her primordial spirit was injured. Xian Han shook his head. There was no guilt or heartache on his face. Instead, there was only disapproval. I only realized this after I woke up, but I know too little about primordial spirit sorcery. I could only use the Luohan stone to freeze her dantian and meridians so that her condition would not worsen. With that he conjured a seal. The next moment, a piece of red jade appeared above the ice bed. It floated in midair and emitted a steady stream of cold qi. Without the Luohan stone, her condition would worsen. That's why I can't lend it to you. Xian Han explained in a low voice. He helped Baiqiao up from the ice bed and conjured a few healing spells. Baiqiao, who was originally covered in a thin layer of ice, now had a few drops of water on her forehead, and her complexion had regained some color. Her eyelids moved as if she was about to wake up. After a while, she slowly opened her eyes. Are you feeling better? Xian Han asked. His voice was still cold. Baiqiao paused. You. Her voice was hoarse. Her face contorted in pain. Lone Moon frowned. On the way here, he had prepared himself that she would not lend it to him. He was prepared to pay a huge price for it. He did not expect this to be the reason. They wanted to borrow the Luohan stone to save someone. Now he wanted to save someone. He did not know what to say. The Celestial Emperor said that her primordial spirit was injured? Yi Qing suddenly asked. The two people on the other side were stunned. Even Baiqiao, who was on the bed, turned around. She seemed to recognize them and her eyes suddenly widened. You need to rest. Xian Han comforted her softly. He waved a hand in front of her eyes. Baiqiao's body went limp. Her eyes widened for a moment, then slowly closed again. She fell into a deep sleep. He helped Baiqiao lie down. Then he turned to the two of them and nodded. Baiqiao's primordial spirit was indeed injured. Lone Moon also reacted and immediately understood what Yi Qing meant. That's easy. My sect's spirit convening lamp is naturally more useful than the Luohan stone. What do you think? He took a step forward and suggested, we'll leave the spirit convening lamp here. The Celestial Emperor will lend us the Luohan stone. When my sect's disciple recovers, we'll exchange the Luohan stone. Of course, fellow immortal Bai Qiao's injuries must also recover. What do you think? Xian Han hesitated for a moment. Then he nodded. That's a win-win situation. All right. Lone Moon turned his hand and took out the spirit-convening lamp. He did not take it. Instead, he looked down at Bai Qiao. Please come with us. Please wait for a moment. I'll keep the Luohan stone. Lone Moon and the others nodded. They took the lamp and left. Xian Han was quick. In a short while, the cold qi around the immortal palace disappeared. He came out with the Luohan stone and exchanged it with Lone Moon for the spirit-convening lamp. The few of them were in a hurry to save Bai Qiao. They bade farewell politely and flew out of the heavenly palace. When they could no longer see the heavenly palace, I Ching said, "He did it on purpose." Chapter 194. You can tell too? Lone Moon glanced at him and nodded. There is something wrong with this Xian Han. But this Luohan stone is real. Having known Sun Shu for so long, Lone Moon could tell if a divine artifact was real or fake. Why did Xian Han lead them to exchange the Luohan stone for the spirit-convening lamp? Was it really to save Bai Qiao? It's not for her. I Ching said confidently, as if guessing what Sun Shu was thinking. The man looked at Bai Qiao with an emotionless expression. Who cares? Anyway, we've already borrowed the Luohan stone. Lone Moon did not think too much about it. But seeing this celestial emperor with my own eyes, I'm starting to believe that he's an emotionless, heartless man. Bai Qiao was so loyal to him, but the way he looked just now, not only did he not feel touched, he did not even feel guilty. In fact, when he spoke, it was as if there was ice in his voice. He does. What did he mean? Sun Shu frowned. Although that man looked like an emotionless block of ice, he felt that the coldness he exuded was deliberate. Furthermore, Master said that feelings have nothing to do with the heart unless you're retarded. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. Shining don't always. Where's Shining? He turned to find that there was no one beside him. The person who was supposed to be standing on I Ching's flying sword was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly he had a bad feeling. Holy shit. When did she disappear? I think when we left the heavenly palace. Master wasn't there? Wait. Did she follow us into the heavenly palace? I Ching, Lone Moon, water heavenly palace in the ice room just now. The thick layer of ice had disappeared. Although there was still some lingering cold qi, it was not as bone-chilling as before. The person who had been unconscious on the ice bed had woken up. She pressed a hand to her chest, panting heavily. After a while she turned to get down. Suddenly, a white light flashed around her. Bai Qiao screamed. She realized that there was an array beneath her. She took a closer look and realized that it was a trapping array. Jiao Jiao. A cold male voice came from beside her. Xian Han suddenly appeared beside her and reached out to stroke her cheek. Why are you still so impulsive? The person on the bed was stunned and subconsciously moved back, avoiding his touch. She swept a glance at the person who was clearly saying such doting words, but his eyes were still cold. The eyeliner moved to the lamp in his hand, and a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. What do you want? Xian Han's expression remained impassive. A moment later he said in a low voice, Jiao Jiao, after all these years, you should know best what I want. Isn't all of this because of you? Bai Qiao's face darkened. What do you mean? What's wrong? Are you going back on your word? Xian Han laughed icily. His eyes turned even colder. Bai Qiao didn't say anything, but her expression became even more vigilant. Suddenly he leaned closer to her. His cold expression was suddenly tinged with anger. When you fell into the mortal realm, if you hadn't possessed her body and taken over her identity, I wouldn't have mistaken you for her. She is my Tao companion. You stole everything from her. After you ascended, you lied to me for so many years. Do you feel even the slightest bit of guilt towards her? I've said it before, I'm not. Is there any point in denying it now? Xian Han interrupted her. His expression became even colder. Didn't you say that you would do anything for me? Then how about you give your body to her now? What? Bai Qiao's eyes widened. Xian Han's lips curved into a smile. His cold expression suddenly became lively, as if he was sprinkled with thousands of stars. Even Bai Qiao was stunned. I found. He spoke slowly, but his eyes were fixed on the person in front of him, as if trying to read something from her face. I finally found her reincarnation. You stole her body back then. Isn't it only right for you to return it to her? You want to swap our souls? Bai Qiao was in disbelief. I only just found out that she's in the immortal realm. Speaking of which, I have to thank you for letting me know about this lamp. He looked at the lamp in his hand, then at her face again. This time he did not let her escape. He grabbed her by the neck. You owe her. You have to repay her eventually. Bai Qiao could not make a sound. Xan Han stared at her for a long time. Then he released her and turned to walk forward. He stopped in front of the innermost wall. Suddenly he conjured a dermic seal. An array formation appeared on the white wall. Within seconds the entire wall began to open to reveal a hidden room. Why did you lock me up here? An angry female voice rang out from inside. A woman dressed in emerald green walked out. She glared at Xan Han. You better let me go. Don't think you're so great just because you're a celestial emperor. My master is Celestial Emperor Qinggu. If you dare to harm a single hair on my head, my master will never let you off. Little Xian. Xan Han looked at the woman in front of him in a daze. He reached out to hold her hand. But she slapped his hand away. Don't touch me. I've told you hundreds of times. My name is Hui Ling. I'm not your little Xian. And I'm not your wife. Xan Han did not get angry. Instead, he looked at her affectionately. You just don't remember. Soon, you'll remember your past life. What do you mean? Hui Ling paused. Xan Han smiled at her and pulled her back to the center of the room. He pointed at the woman in front of him. Do you remember her? Who is she? Hui Ling frowned. It's okay if you don't know her. I've cast a resurrection spell on her. Soon you'll understand everything. He immediately set up an array around Hui Ling's body and said anxiously, when you become her, I will remove the seal on her body. By then, not only will you remember everything but you will also be a Stygian immortal. Stygian immortal. Hui Ling exclaimed. She suddenly understood what he meant. You want to change our souls? No. I don't want to. She wanted to escape but she was trapped in the array. Don't worry, nothing will happen, Xan Han comforted her. He walked to Bai Qiao's side, lit the spirit-convening lamp and placed it at the edge of the array. He was just about to activate his immortal spell to change souls when Bai Qiao suddenly broke out of the array and rushed towards him. A sword formed from immortal chi flew towards him. Xan Han parried the attack with his palm, but the sword in front of him suddenly changed. Thousands of sword shadows flew towards him. Xan Han was shocked. He had no choice but to summon his weapon to block the attack. Bai Qiao did not continue. Instead, she took this opportunity to turn and rush out of the door. She was about to fly out of the door. Suddenly, an array lit up, sealing the entire door. There was a flash of lightning. Bai Qiao fell to the ground. She was already seriously injured. Now she spat out a mouthful of blood. But she did not collapse. Xan Han looked at the array that trapped her. It was stained with blood. The array had been broken. It looked like she had been secretly breaking the array. He could not help but feel surprised. I didn't expect you to improve so much after all these years. He laughed coldly and walked towards her. But, do you think you can escape? Bai Ti doesn't care about you anymore. No one will come to save you. As he spoke, he conjured a seal. A cold light flashed and a spell was formed. He was about to use it on the person on the ground. Suddenly he felt his hand tighten. Someone grabbed him and he could not move. The spell in his hand dissipated. A lazy voice rang out. Sorry, I'm here. Xan Han, Hui Ling. There was a moment of silence. Shining turned to look at the person on the ground. She waved and smiled. Shorty. Chapter 195. The person on the ground was stunned. His eyes widened as he stared at Shining, who had suddenly appeared. His originally clear eyes were instantly filled with tears, as if he could no longer suppress them. Tears gushed out of his eyes in an instant. Shining jumped. Why are you crying? The moment she said that, the person burst into tears. Wah! Divine. Divine immortal, sect master. She suddenly rushed over and hugged Xin Ying's thigh tightly. She cried loudly. Sect master, you recognized me, you really recognized me? Wah! She knew it was her. She looked completely different now. She had become someone else. But she could still recognize her at a glance. Xin Ying's mouth twitched. She saw the look in her eyes just now. It was hard not to recognize her. Don't cry. She lifted her leg but could not pull it away. That was why children were so troublesome. It was the same when they grew up. Yes, it's sect master. She nodded vigorously, but tears continued to fall from her eyes. It's you? Hui Ling exclaimed. A complicated expression flashed across her face. Why are you here? Shining turned to look at her. Just as she was about to speak, the immortal qi around her exploded. Then there was the sound of wind breaking. Xen Han, whose hand was being held by her, conjured an ice blade and slashed at her, trying to force her to retreat. Be careful. The person hugging Xin Ying's thigh cried out. Her tears finally stopped. Shining paused as the ice blade was about to land on her. She did not retreat. Instead, she raised her hand. In the next moment, blood splattered everywhere, and the bright red color splashed all over the ground. A scream filled the entire immortal palace. With a loud thud, half of Xen Han's hand fell to the ground. Shining looked at the severed hand on the ground, then at the person in front of her. She paused. I forgot to grab your hand. She did not expect it to break. Why did she have to use so much strength to slash it? Who are you? Xen Han's face was pale. He took a few steps back and conjured a few hand seals to stop the pain. He stared at the person in front of him warily. He could not escape her control just now. She even caused him to lose an arm. Damn it. Stop talking nonsense. We have to fight anyway. It's easier to talk after the fight. Shining scratched her head in frustration. Let's do it. Xen Han's expression darkened. He did not dare to be careless anymore. He activated all his immortal qi and created thousands of wind blades. He even summoned his intrinsic dermic artifact. No matter who you are, don't even think about leaving here today. For a moment, the entire room was filled with ice-cold wind blades. They were like sharp blades that sliced everything in the surroundings into pieces. The originally magnificent immortal palace was instantly turned into flying ash, revealing the sky above. Even the ground under their feet was split open by the wind blades. With a flick of his fingers, all the wind blades flew towards Shining. At the same time, Xen Han's figure flashed, his only hand holding a pure white immortal sword. He charged towards the person in front of him. Shining only felt a gust of wind, and the overwhelming wind blades slashed towards her. However, the moment they got close to her, they dissipated and hit her body. She didn't feel anything at all, only the hair on the side of her face fluttered a few times. What kind of move was this? Why was he blowing air at her? Was he trying to blow her away? Straight face, looking up at the person who was charging towards her again, Shining frowned. She took a step forward and reached out to grab the person's collar. Sorry, you have bad breath. With that said, she lowered her hand and slammed it down on the ground. Only to hear a rumbling sound, only to see a crack from beneath her feet, directly spreading downwards, the entire floating peak was instantly smashed into two halves. But she did not stop. She stepped to the side and grabbed the person who had already been smashed into the ground. She slammed him down again. Again and again, and again. History was always shockingly similar. Shining was in a bad mood. Because it was lunchtime and Chef was gone. 2 minutes later. She flung the person in her hand away and turned to the person behind her. Hey shorty. Master. The person behind her was stunned. He was obviously stunned by her overwhelming power. She was indeed the sect master. Go and keep that lamp. She pointed to the spirit-convening lamp not far away. If it's broken, Father Nyo will be angry. Yes. Shining finally reacted. She hurriedly ran over and picked up the lamp. Just as she was about to return, someone grabbed her by the ankle. Jiao. Jiao. Xen Han did not know where he got the strength from, but he raised his bruised face. How could you do this to me? She stopped in her tracks. Something flashed across her eyes. Suddenly, she smiled warmly at the person on the ground. She was so beautiful that even the person on the ground was stunned. Xen Han. She took a deep breath, lifted her leg and aimed a kick at a certain part of him. F***CKU. Who the F***CK is your Jiao Jiao? I told you my name is Xian Tong. I've been disgusted by the two of you for more than 2 months. You still disgust me. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. She kicked him again and again. Celestial Emperor Xen Han, one of the 10 Celestial Emperors, was in so much pain that his body curled up like a shrimp. He let out a wail of pain. Shining, speaking of which, who taught this child? Stop. Hui Ling, who had been standing at the side, suddenly shouted. She looked at Xian Tong unhappily. He's already in such a state. Why do you have to be so overbearing? Aren't you being too vicious? Xian Tong frowned. Miss, he forced me to swap my soul first. Is he allowed to do evil but I'm not? You're willing to swap your soul but I'm not. But you're fine now, aren't you? Hui Ling looked at the person on the ground. She could not bear to see him like this. What's more, he's only doing this to find his wife. If you hadn't possessed his wife, he wouldn't have done this. The more she spoke, the more she felt that it made sense. Although she did not want to stay here, he had not touched her in the past few days. He even went along with her. Clearly, Celestial Emperor Xan Han was not an evil person. Miss, are you deaf? Xian Tong's frown deepened. I told you I'm not Bai Qiao. I don't care what grudges they have between them. I don't know why I'm in her body, but this has nothing to do with me. You? Hui Ling was at a loss for words. She looked worriedly at the person on the ground, but still stood in front of Xian Tong. Forgive and forget. I won't let you touch him again. Little Xian. Xan Han looked up at Hui Ling. He was touched. I knew it. Even though you've reincarnated, you still have me in your heart. He spoke with great emotion. He looked at Hui Ling as if she owned the whole world. But when he looked at her, his face swollen like a pig's head and his body bent like a shrimp, the scene looked comical. Xian Tong could not help but look away. It hurt her eyes. But Hui Ling did not seem to see it. She helped the person on the ground up, glaring at Xian Tong. Then she said sternly, Celestial Emperor, don't worry. My master will be here soon. He will make sure justice is served. The corner of Xian Tong's mouth twitched. She suddenly remembered something that Elder Lone Moon often said. MDZZ. Chapter 196. Little Xian, you're the only one in the world who cares about me so much. Xan Han's expression darkened. Yeah, I told you I'm not. Why do you have to? No, you must be. He tightened his grip on her hand and said seriously, as long as you come back to me, I don't care about anything, so. Xan Han, why do you have to? Before Hui Ling could finish her sentence, she was shocked. What are you doing? Suddenly, the array beneath them shone brightly and a pitch-black crack appeared behind them. A powerful suction force immediately emerged from the crack. Xan Han's eyes were filled with madness. We will not be separated. With that said, he hugged Hui Ling and turned to enter the crack. The crack grew larger and larger, sucking in everything around it. Even Xian Tong could not keep her balance. She could only summon her immortal sword and stab it into the ground. Oh. Hui Ling realized that he was trying to take her away. Her expression changed and she started to resist. Don't worry, it'll be fine, Xan Han comforted her. We're just leaving this place. Little Ling. A familiar voice rang out. Chingu had finally arrived. He was flying towards them on his sword. He stared in shock at the crack that had suddenly appeared. What's going on? He paused and turned to look at Xian Tong. He paused. He did not know why, but his heart was pounding. Who was she? Master, save me. Hui Ling's face lit up. She wanted to go over, but Xan Han held her tightly. Celestial Emperor Xan Han, what are you trying to do? Chingu snapped out of his daze. Seeing that the three of them were about to be sucked into the crack, he conjured a golden rope to pull them out. I'm going to save you now. With that said, he waved his hand and the rope flew out. With a whoosh, it wrapped tightly around Xian Tong. Chingu, Hui Ling, Xining. In the next moment, Hui Ling's face was filled with disbelief as she fell into the crack and disappeared without a trace. Qin Ji's expression was blank. He could not even react. However, the immortal sword that Xian Tong had conjured had already collapsed. The suction force in the crack was so strong that Chingu had not been able to pull Xian Tong back in time before he was pulled over. Seeing that the two of them were about to fall in, Xin Ying's figure flashed and she pulled them out, one in each hand. Everything happened too quickly. From the moment Xan Han summoned the crack, it had only been 3 breaths of time. Now the crack had closed. Sect Master. Xian Tong's heart skipped a beat. She did not know what tunnel Xan Han had opened, but she knew it was dangerous. He looked up at Xining and handed her the lamp. Fortunately, the lamp was fine. Keep it. Give it to Father Nyo later. She nodded and put it away. On the other hand, Chingu stared at Xian Tong in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking about. After a while, he said hesitantly, Miss, are you all right? Before he could finish his sentence, Xian Tong suddenly lifted her leg and kicked the area between Qin Ji's legs. Chingu was caught off guard. Although he had immortal qi to protect his body, he was still kicked so hard that his entire body bent forward. His hands covered an unspeakable part of his body. It's all your brainless disciple's fault. My sect master came personally to save us, but she sided with that disgusting scumbag. Don't let her harm others if she hasn't been taught well. Shining, was there something wrong with this little shorty? She was so cruel. Surprisingly, Chingu was not angry. He did not ask what had happened. Instead, he looked at Xian Tong with a conflicted expression. As if he was still in a daze? Sect Master Xian Han has already escaped. What do we do now? Xian Tong turned around, returning to her cute and obedient self. Let's go home first. Eat first. Yes, Sect Master. Xian Tong hurriedly summoned her flying sword and looked at Shining with shining eyes. She finally had a chance to fly with the Sect Master. She was happy. Suddenly, she felt that her wounds were no longer hurting. She jumped onto her flying sword and flew towards the exit of the Heavenly Palace. Shorty, who taught you that kick just now? Sect Master, it was Master Chi. Roasted chicken gal? Was she that cruel? Yes, Master Chi said that all men are bad. Shining, why did she suddenly want to light a candle? Shining bumped into Chef and Father Nyo at the entrance of the Heavenly Palace. Perhaps because Xian Han wanted to use the soul-swapping technique, there were not many immortals in the Heavenly Palace. They managed to get to the entrance unimpeded. Master. I Ching sped up. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Shining. Thank goodness he found her. Where did you go? Father Nyo glared at her angrily. He turned to look at Bai Qiao. Why did you bring her along? This is Short. Shining explained. Elder Lone Moon. Bai Qiao immediately explained, I am Xian Tong. I don't know why I ended up in this body after the heavenly tribulation. Xian Tong. Lone Moon exclaimed. He thought for a moment and guessed what was going on. His expression darkened. Let's go back first. Why is Celestial Emperor Chingu here? Chingu paused. He turned to look at Xian Tong, who was guarding him like a thief. He did not know why he had followed them. Let's go back to the sect first. I Ching reminded them. Out of habit, he helped Shining onto his flying sword. Hearing the commotion, they knew without a doubt that Master had made a move. After all, this was Yi Shui's territory. The few of them nodded and flew away from the heavens beyond heaven. Invincible sect. Lone Moon glanced at the Xian Tong in front of him. Her body had recovered, but she looked uneasy. A moment later he said, Bai Qiao? She trembled and clenched her fists. They knew. Tell me what happened. I didn't want to take over her body. Seeing that they had recognized her, Bai Qiao had no choice but to explain. That day I used up all my dermic powers to save Xian Han. My primordial spirit was almost destroyed. In a moment of desperation I used the soul-swapping technique. I didn't think that I would be swapped with her. When she woke up, her body was too weak. When she heard that they were going to borrow the Luo Han stone, she wanted to know about Xian Han's condition. That was why she did not tell them the truth. Oh yes, Xian Han. How is he? Is he all right? Good. Of course he's good. Lone Moon laughed coldly. He's so good that he can swap souls with his predecessor. What? She paused. Lone Moon glanced at her and told her everything that Xian Tong had told him, word for word. The more he spoke, the paler Bai Qiao became. She looked like she was about to break down. A moment later, she shook her head vigorously. No, that's impossible. Xian Han would never do that to me. She had given up everything for him. How could he only care about avenging Yun Xian and not feel anything for her? It's up to you to believe it or not. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. He had no interest in this melodramatic story. Tell me, how do I swap you and Xian Tong back? Even Chu Xian and Lan Hua had not heard of the soul-swapping technique. They had heard of possession, but it involved swallowing the other person's soul. They had never heard of swapping bodies. That's impossible. Bai Qiao lay sprawled on the ground as if she had not heard his question. She muttered, he knew. I didn't want to possess Yun Xian's body. I don't even know what happened. That's why after I ascended, I returned to my own body. He said he didn't mind. I didn't kill her on purpose. I'm sick of these love brains. How could he say that he never loved me? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. She suddenly covered her face and burst into tears. But there was still a glimmer of hope in her eyes. He said that in this lifetime, he would marry no one but me. Yun Xian was only his junior sister for a few years. How could he have liked her? He only did this to me because he cultivated the heartless Tao. That's right. It's all the heartless Tao's fault. Everyone frowned as they watched Bai Qiao begin to deceive herself. especially since she was using Xian Tong's body. Roasted Chicken Gal, who was standing at the side, clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles cracked. She could not help but step forward to punch Bai Qiao. I'm going to make things clear with him. Bai Qiao suddenly stood up. He must have liked me, not Yun Xian. Indeed not. Shining suddenly spoke. Everyone present was taken aback and turned their heads to look at her. What did she mean? Bai Qiao's eyes lit up. She looked like she had found someone who understood her. Little animal, answer a question for me first. What? Where did you learn the soul-swapping technique? Chapter 197. Bai Qiao paused. She did not understand what Shining meant. After a while she said, this technique was created by Xan Han when he brought me to immortality. He wanted me to return to my fox body. That's why he created this technique. In other words, this technique was taught to you by him? Bai Qiao nodded. Then, as if recalling something, she continued, that's because he had to endure double the heavenly tribulations to bring me to immortality. The body that I possessed in the lower realm was badly injured and could not recover. He had no choice but to create this technique. Oh? Shining turned to look at Chef. I Ching immediately understood what she meant. His expression darkened as well. Why are you asking this? Lone Moon and the others were confused. Self-created techniques are not that simple, I Ching said. I Ching said. His sword technique was also self-created, but that was the result of years of trial and error. Even now it was constantly being improved. His sword technique was already so good, much less an immortal technique. What's more, not even the Celestial Emperor has heard of an immortal technique like the soul-swapping technique. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. When Xan Han ascended, he was only an earth immortal. Yet, when Bai Qiao was seriously injured, he managed to create this soul-swapping technique. I Ching frowned. Unless he's a genius or he knew about this technique from the start. Shining interrupted. Impossible. Bai Qiao's expression changed. She seemed to sense what they wanted to say. She shook her head vigorously. He created this technique for me. He said that no matter what I became, he would love me. Why would he lie to me? Let me guess. Shining ignored her. She continued, you said that after you descended to the lower realm, you possessed that Xian's body for some reason. That means that only your soul descended to the lower realm. How does a normal soul descend to the lower realm? Everyone paused. Then they turned to look at Chingu. Why are you looking at me? Chingu looked confused, but he still answered, naturally, I enter the 3 realms of samsara and reincarnate as a human. But that was an accident. Bai Qiao's face grew paler. Even her body began to sway. What if it wasn't? Shining continued, a mortal realm cultivator accidentally discovered an immortal soul that had left its body and needed to be reborn. It just so happened that this cultivator knew the soul swap technique. Unfortunately, this soul was a woman. What was even more coincidental was that this cultivator had a beloved Tao companion who might not be able to survive the ascension. What do you think he'll do? Change souls. In an instant, everyone came to a realization, and their faces were filled with shock. Changing into a celestial body, avoiding the heavenly tribulation, and directly becoming a celestial. Even ascension was skipped, and they directly went to the celestial realm, and they were still Stygian celestials. Yes. Shining nodded. But this soul-swapping technique is flawed. You can't guarantee a complete success. So Yun Xian died in the process of exchanging souls. Lone Moon exclaimed. Xan Han went for wool and came home shorn. He could only pretend that he didn't know about this. Holy shit. He had never seen such a thing before. The reason why he needed the spirit convening lamp was because the soul exchange technique was flawed. Shining took a bite of her fruit and glanced at Bai Qiao and Xian Tong. I'm guessing that this flaw requires both parties to be extremely weak and their primordial spirits to succeed, right? That's why she accidentally swapped bodies with Little Tong during Little Tong's heavenly tribulation. Chi Qingyu exclaimed. At that time, Little Tong's primordial spirit was injured by the wildfire, and Bai Qiao's primordial spirit was also injured because she tried to save Xan Han. That was why the two of them successfully swapped bodies. Shining finished her fruit in 2 bites and switched to another one. She looked at Bai Qiao, whose face was as white as a sheet. Enunciating each word, she said, back then, you did not possess his wife's body. They had been scheming against you from the beginning. The one who was deceived for tens of thousands of years was not him, but you. Bai Qiao took a few steps back and could no longer stand steadily. She sat on the ground as if she had lost all her life. She did not make a sound, but tears flowed down her cheeks like floodwaters. Everyone around them could not help but sigh. Perhaps Bai Qiao herself had suspected this, but she was blinded by her love for so many years that she refused to see the truth. Now that they thought about it, Xan Han's claim that he was avenging his Dao companion did not make any sense. If he really loved that person called Yun Shen as much as he said, how could he not have recognized her for thousands of years? It was all because Bai Qiao was Bai Ti's daughter that he pretended not to know. Xan Han was not heartless because of the heartless Dao. The only person he loved was himself. He had given up on Yun Shen for the sake of ascension. Now he could give up on Bai Qiao too. Lone Moon looked at the despairing person on the ground and shook his head. It looked like he would not be able to get anything out of her today. He beckoned to Xian Tong and Yu Hong. Forget it. Bring her away. Tell Celestial Emperor Bai Ti about this and ask him to come and get her. Yes. Yu Hong responded. Then, together with Xian Tong, they helped the unconscious man up and left. Qi Qingyu and the other disciples also left. Qinggu as Xian Tong turned to look at the person following her. She frowned and said, "Get lost." Qinggu turned and sat back down. Shining, Yi Qing, Lone Moon, had this child really gone astray? Even the plot had changed. Where was the female lead supposed to be in love with the male lead? Why was the situation reversed? And shouldn't Qinggu be thinking of a way to save his disciple? Why did he follow her all the way back? Well, I guess we can't just swap Xian Tong and Bai Qiao back? Lone Moon coughed and looked at Qinggu awkwardly. He could not accept the plot. If the soul-swapping technique could only be used when one's primordial spirit was damaged, they could not possibly beat the two of them up again. They could only wait for Bai Ti to come and see what the two of them would do when their parents were present. But at least we have a solution. What solution? Shining suddenly asked. What do you mean? That lung? It's Han Xn Han. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Even if you can't remember, don't change it. Alright. If he was the one who started the soul swapping, aren't you curious why he took the green tea away? Everyone was stunned. Then they stood up in shock. That's right. If he was the one who orchestrated the whole thing. If he was not a loving person, why did he swap Hui Ling into Bai Qiao's body? He was already a celestial emperor. What reason did he have to risk offending Bai Ti to swap Bai Qiao's soul? Master. Xian Tong said that there was a strange aura coming from the crack that Xan Han opened. Yi Qing suddenly recalled. Can you tell what it is? Demonic qi. Before Shining could answer, Qinggu finally reacted. He said, the demonic qi coming from the crack. Lone Moon, Yi Qing, everyone. Chapter 198. Bai Ti came very quickly. In less than 2 days he came to claim his daughter. Unlike the previous time when he was angry, he seemed to have aged a lot. He looked at Bai Qiao with a less tender and caring gaze. He was probably hurt by the other party's actions. Just as Lone Moon expected, the two of them could not be swapped back. Bai Qiao's injuries had healed and Xian Tong's primordial spirit had recovered. The success rate of soul swapping was too low. Moreover, it could not be used to locate the target. Who knew where the soul would end up? It was the same even with the spirit convening lamp. Although the spirit convening lamp could locate the target, it could only protect one person's primordial spirit from dissipating. In other words, if the primordial spirits were to be swapped, one of them would die. It was clear that when Xan Han wanted to swap the souls of Bai Qiao and Hui Ling, he did not think of letting Bai Qiao live. That was why he forced the soul swap even though he knew that it was not Bai Qiao in her body. Xian Tong felt a wave of fear as she thought about all this. Thank goodness. Thank goodness the sect master recognized her. Otherwise, she was filled with gratitude and excitement. She turned and quietly stuffed half the room full of potatoes, sweet potatoes, fresh flowers and other offerings. Shining, Yi Qing, radish. In the end, Bai Ti decided not to swap the souls. He would leave the two of them in their current state. Bai Ti would bring the new Bai Qiao back. Her cultivation level had been destroyed and she needed to cultivate again. She probably would not have the chance to come out and court death for 100 years. Xian Tong, who had turned from a human cultivator to a demon cultivator, was in a similar situation. Qi Qingyu would occasionally send her immortal qi to maintain her human form. But her body was not even that of a first-level demon. Surprisingly, Lone Moon did not object. He only requested that Bai Ti, Xian Tong, Bai Qiao and himself swear a heavenly Dao oath together. They would never use any means or methods to swap the two of them back. Bai Ti agreed. As soon as the oath was made, 4 bolts of lightning struck down from the sky, forming a heavenly Tao talisman on the 4 of them. Lone Moon, who had just agreed reluctantly, smiled like a businessman and turned to chase them away. Celestial Emperor Bai Ti, it's already time. Forgive me for not sending you off this matter. Thank you for your help. You saved my son's life. Although Bai Ti had a fiery temper, he was not a fool. Although the swapping of souls was an accident, they had still saved his daughter. I will repay you handsomely in the future. After that, he brought Bai Qiao, who was still immersed in the shock, back to Bai Zhao. Lone Moon's smile grew even friendlier. Especially a few days later, when he received more than 10 storage bags full of gifts from Bai Zhao, his eyes narrowed into slits, just like Xian Tong's new form. The invincible sect onlookers who knew about it, unscrupulous merchants. He had clearly taken advantage of the other party, but he still extorted a large sum of money from them. Xian Tong and Bai Qiao seemed to be in a similar situation. One was a mortal and the other was a mortal fox. Bai Ti did not know, but Shining and the others knew. Xan Han had said before that Bai Qiao's cultivation level had not disappeared. It had been sealed by some unknown method. She was actually a Stygian immortal. So not only did Xian Tong gain her cultivation level for free, Lone Moon also extorted a large sum of money from her and made a good impression on her. But when the few of them examined Xian Tong's fox body, they encountered a problem. Because no one could find where the seal was. Her body indeed looked like a spirit fox that had just gained sentience. It was no wonder that even Bai Ti had not discovered the abnormality in his daughter's body. They studied it for a few days but could not find the seal. One day, Radish, who came to deliver the dandelions and take away Xian Tong's flowers, suddenly said, "Hey, the seal on this fox's claws is the same as the spirit sealing contract that Brother Lan mentioned." The spirit sealing contract. Chen Gu was the first to react. That's a technique of the demon race. Everyone was shocked. No wonder they could not find it. It was a technique of the demon race. So they immediately brought Xian Tong to the back mountain to look for a certain god of fortune who had been refining pills for several months. Indeed, he saw the problem with Xian Tong's new fox body and solved it. Lone Moon was initially worried that if Chen Gu saw that Lan Hua was an invincible sect, there would be some conflict. That was why he did not let Lan Hua out of the back mountain these few days. But reality proved that Chen Gu had not thought of this at all. He looked at Xian Tong worriedly the entire time. He was even more anxious than the others about the seal being lifted. It was as if Xian Tong was not a disciple of invincible sect, but his disciple. Just as Xan Han said, once the seal was lifted, Xian Tong's immortal qi surged. Her cultivation level rose at a terrifying rate. It rose all the way to the Stygian immortal level. Apart from I Ching and Lone Moon, she became the person with the highest cultivation level in invincible sect. 8 more tails appeared on her body. She became a 9-tailed white fox. Streaks of white lightning could be faintly seen on his body. She was of the thunder element. Lone Moon's eyes lit up. He patted Xian Tong, who had already returned to human form. He said slowly, "From today onwards I will personally teach you swordplay. Thunder element. What a good seed for a sword cultivator. She must not let herself be led astray this time." To hell with body cultivators. Shining, I Ching, Father Niu, do you still remember that she was the female lead? Xian Tong paused. Although she was now a Stygian immortal, she still had to start practicing her sorcery. Her eyes lit up. She cupped her fists and knelt down. "Thank you, Elder." Being by Elder's side meant that she could see Sect Master all the time. She was happy. Chingu could not help but step forward. "Actually, I can get lost." "Oh." A certain male lead retreated silently. For some reason, Xian Tong disliked this celestial emperor called Chingu. She had the urge to kick him the moment she saw him. Shining, I Ching, Lone Moon, it was as if he could hear the crying of the plot. Lone Moon cleared his throat and regained his composure. He told Lan Hua that Xan Han had indeed found the answer when he opened up the crack filled with demonic qi. The bite of 10,000 voids. Lan Hua exclaimed. "What do you mean?" Lone Moon stepped forward. "Explain clearly." "It's a sorcery similar to a transportation array," Lan Hua explained. Lan Hua explained, "However, it's different from the teleportation array, which requires immortal stones and has a distance limit. The bite of 10,000 voids cuts through the void and can reach anywhere in an instant." "You mean to say that we have no way of knowing where he went?" "Not necessarily." Lan Hua could not help but pass a cup of hot tea to a certain foodie who was busy eating pastries. Then he continued, the bite of 10,000 voids consumes a lot of demonic qi. The exit will also cause strange phenomena. We can check where strange phenomena have appeared in the immortal realm these few days and we'll know. Chen Gu suddenly frowned and looked at everyone. As if thinking of something, his expression became solemn. I'm afraid, things are not that simple. Chapter 199. What do you mean, Celestial Emperor? Lone Moon asked. Chen Gu fell silent for a moment before answering. Do you remember when I transformed into Ningxian and was planted with a demonic seed? The few of them paused. They subconsciously looked at Xian Tong, who did not seem to notice anything. A moment later Lone Moon replied, I remember. Does this have something to do with Xan Han? That's right. Chen Gu nodded. I only remembered it now. Before I discovered the demonic seed, I was invited by him to go to the void and subdue an ancient beast. He said that the beast was found at the eastern border of Yishui, in a land that was sealed in ice all year round. He tried everything he could to chase it into the void. To prevent it from escaping again, he invited me to subdue it. I thought that the border of Yishui was connected to Fengcang, so that the beast would not be seen by Fengcang immortals. So I agreed. Could it be that it was a demonic beast? Lone Moon was shocked. I've only just come to my senses. That strange beast's body is pitch black. Moreover, its speed was extremely fast, so fast that no one could sense its aura. I thought it was special at first, but now that I think about it, it must be because the void is a place with chaotic immortal and demonic qi. I didn't notice that it was actually demonic qi. His frown deepened. Not long after I subdued that demonic beast, I was ambushed and severely injured. That was when I discovered the demonic seed in my body. You mean? Xan Han lured you there and planted the demonic seed in you? Lone Moon asked. Chen Gu was not sure. All these years he could not find the person who ambushed him, so he thought that the demonic seed was planted by that person. But when he thought about it, the other party had used an immortal spell. How could a person without demonic qi plant a demonic seed? He was a celestial emperor. The only person who could hurt him was another celestial emperor. At first he suspected Chu Xian. After all, among the 10 celestial emperors, only Chu Xian disliked him. Thinking of this, he subconsciously glanced at Lan Hua, feeling conflicted. But seeing how calm Shening and the others looked, he decided to put it aside. I don't care if it's true or not. But to be able to open the bite of 10,000 void, even if he isn't a demon, he should be extremely familiar with the demon race. Lan Hua continued, if he had been planning this since a long time ago, it would indeed be very difficult to find him. Everyone was put in a difficult position. Xan Han was too secretive. Who would have thought that as one of the 10 Sky Kings he would be entangled with Bai Qiao? Moreover, they didn't even know what he wanted to do. What is the Void Land? Shining suddenly asked. Exalted Goddess, that's a broken boundary in the west of the Bo Sea. Little Encyclopedia Chu Xian glared at Chen Gu and immediately explained, that's the only piece of wilderness in the Bo Sea, but it's close to the westernmost side of the immortal realm. It said that it's connected to chaos. Therefore, there was not a single blade of grass or living things growing inside. It was a place filled with all kinds of obstacles, devils and yin qi. Normally, no one from the immortal world would go to. Holy shit. He paused mid-sentence, his eyes widening. Xan Han, that rascal, didn't really go there, did he? The few people in the hall also reacted, and their faces were full of surprise. That was really possible. Lan Hua said that opening the bite of 10,000 void would require a large amount of demonic qi and would cause a phenomenon. In the entire immortal realm, the only place that would cause a large amount of demonic qi and a phenomenon at the same time would be the Void Land. Yes or no, send a message to the Emperor of the Bo Sea. Send someone to the vicinity of the Void Land and ask. Lone Moon suggested, looking at Chu Xian and Chen Gu. Chen Gu nodded, turned and walked out of the hall, conjured a seal and sent the message. Perhaps as Chu Xian said, Chen Gu was very popular among the 10 Sky Kings. In less than 2 days, he received a reply from the Emperor of the Bo Sea. Surprisingly, there was no phenomenon in the Void Land. But the other party replied with an important piece of news. The Cloud Sea, which was connected to the Bo Sea, happened to have a phenomenon in the past few days. The seawater even flowed into the nearby Yishui continent. Even the Emperor of the Cloud Sea, Yingji, was helpless. But because the Cloud Sea was filled with aquatic beasts and spirits, it usually did not interact with the immortals of the other continents. He was not sure what exactly had happened. Lone Moon was confused. Another Cloud Sea was involved. He had no choice but to give up on the idea of going to the Bo Sea. Together with Chingu, who finally remembered that he had a disciple to save, and Boss Lon, the five of them turned and headed to the Cloud Sea. They could not be at ease until they got to the bottom of the matter with Xan Han. Back in Ishue, they were the ones who ruined his plan to swap souls. They were now enemies with him. Given this person's cunning, he might be plotting something else to deal with them. Invincible sect had already been dragged into this mess. Rather than waiting for death, they might as well take the initiative to attack. Chu Xian was guarding the sect. Nothing would go wrong. What's more, he had a feeling that things were not so simple. The few of them spent a few days flying to the Cloud Sea's territory. From afar, they could see a white waterfall falling from the sky. It looked like a ribbon hanging between heaven and earth. Water flowed endlessly into the Yunzhe continent below. It was the trio's first time here, so they subconsciously looked up at the sky above them, only to discover that the blue sky was constantly swaying with watery light. When they got closer, they could even see all kinds of spirit immortal beasts of various sizes swimming in the sky. No wonder it was called the Cloud Sea. It really was the sea that floated in the clouds. Wow! Xining could not help but exclaim at the sight before her. This water can't be, Before she could finish, Yi Qing and Lone Moon's expressions suddenly changed. They covered her mouth from left and right. Shut up. Please let the immortal citizens of the Cloud Sea go. Master, why don't you eat something first? Xining, Lan Hua and Qinggu, who did not know what was going on, Lone Moon glanced at the waterfall falling from the sky. That must be the so-called anomaly, right? The few of them flew over. Lan Hua looked carefully at the waterfall in the sky and shook his head. There was no demonic chi here. Lone Moon's expression darkened. Then he turned and flew towards the entrance of the Cloud Sea. It looked like they could only look for the celestial emperor of the Cloud Sea to have a chat. The entrance was not far. After flying for about 10 minutes, they saw the heavenly gate. Surprisingly, there were no immortals guarding the heavenly gate. There was only a huge stone tablet in the middle of the gate. On it, there was a row of eye-catching words written in bright red. Celestial Emperor's Edict. Male immortals and dogs are not allowed to enter. Everyone, what did this mean? How did male immortals offend the Celestial Emperor? Why would he use such a stone to block the entrance? I almost forgot that Celestial Emperor Yingji of the Cloud Sea is a female emperor, Qinggu suddenly said. Don't tell me, she got hurt like by Qiao? From her tone, it was obvious that she hated all men in the world. Then what should we do? Lan Hua frowned. Will she tell us anything about Xan Han? There's an array on the stone tablet. Yi Qing pointed in front of them. Lone Moon, holy shit, it's the silent yang array. Can destroy all yang qi. How much does the Celestial Emperor hate men? Lan Hua, does that mean that only women can go in? Yi Qing, will the transformation technique work? Qinggu, no. The transformation technique cannot hide the yang qi of a male immortal. Why don't we let Radish turn into a woman and go in? Anyway, he can be a man or a woman. We haven't decided yet. Pui? I don't want to turn into a woman. Then what should we do? We can't possibly fight our way in, can we? We don't have any women here. Why don't we go in through the waterfall? Well, Xining, who had been silent for a long time, finally raised her hand. Have you all forgotten that I'm a woman too? The five of them, there was silence for 5 seconds. If you didn't mention it, we would have forgotten, Lone Moon said. Are you sure you look more like a woman than Radish? Xining, son of AB *TC. Chapter 200. Xining walked towards the stone tablet. There was a flash of light and she passed through it without encountering any obstacles. She held a yellow voice transmission talisman in her hand and a familiar voice sounded from it. Xining, can you hear me? Do you see the red array in front? Xining looked at the red light in front of her and nodded. Remembering that he could not see her, she replied, yes. Go straight into the array on the left. There will be an immortal stone in the middle. Lone Moon explained in a low voice. Do you see it? I see it. Very good. That's the switch to maintain the array. Remove the immortal stone first and turn off the array. Let us in. All right. We're here to ask about the situation, not to fight. Other than the immortal stone, don't touch anything else. Yes. Remember, it must be the array on the left. Don't go to the right. The array stone is there. If you take it, it will collapse. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard a loud rumble. The stone tablet that was originally tightly blocking the heaven gate collapsed with a crash and shattered into pieces on the ground. Amidst the dust, they could faintly see a certain person holding an array stone in front of them. The 4 people and 1 radish, heir. Xining looked at the immortal stone in her hand. Is it off? Flip's table? Off your ass. The damn array was collapsing. Lone Moon was so angry that his liver was hurting. Do you feel uncomfortable if you don't destroy something? It's fine if you have no sense of direction, but you can't even King tell left and right. Isn't this the left? It was clearly the left hand, the hand that held the bowl. You're facing us now. Of course it's the left. I'm talking about the direction you came in from. Do you understand? You're blaming me? Who are you? How dare you trespass into Cloud Sea Heavenly Palace? A shout sounded. Dozens of immortals flew over from afar, each holding an immortal weapon. They surrounded the few of them in an instant. The strange thing was they were all female immortals. The leading female immortal looked at the broken stone tablet on the ground. She frowned and glared at the few people at the door. Where did these arrogant people come from? How dare they destroy the Celestial Emperor's holy oracle stone? Capture them. With that said, she waved her hand. The surrounding immortals immediately stepped forward, ready to take action. Wait. Qin Gu immediately took 2 steps forward and released the suppressive aura of a Celestial Emperor. He said, I am Qin Gu. I have something important to discuss with Celestial Emperor Yingji. Feng Tsang's Emperor? The female immortal was shocked by his immortal aura and took a step back. Her expression changed as she scanned the group. The Cloud Sea has never interacted with other continents. Even the Emperor of Feng Tsang should not destroy our Imperial Edict Stone for no reason. This? Qin Gu glanced at Xining, who was stuffing the array stone into I Ching's hand and munching on a fruit. His mouth twitched and he had no choice but to brace himself and explain, this is a misunderstanding. We saw that there was no one guarding the heavenly gate and could not find anyone to pass the message. That was why he wanted to undo the array formation and find an immortal to report to. I didn't expect to accidentally destroy this formation. The female immortal was unmoved. She looked at them warily and said, I don't care who you are. Our emperor has ordered that all male immortals are not allowed to enter the Cloud Sea Heavenly Palace. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy. As she spoke, she waved her hand. The immortals around them closed in once again. Just as they were about to start fighting, a male voice suddenly sounded. Exalted Immortal Zhu Yun, what happened? The next moment, someone landed beside the female immortal. It was a male immortal dressed in blue. He wore a purple gold crown on his head and one hand was behind his back. Out of habit, his brows were slightly furrowed and he looked exceptionally stern. His entire body was surrounded by thick immortal qi. His face in particular looked somewhat familiar. Why is this solitary young array? He looked at the rubble on the ground and his eyes flashed with surprise. Subconsciously, he raised his head and said, Isn't this Celestial Emperor Qin Gu? Why do you have the time to come? Halfway through his words, he suddenly saw something. His eyes widened and his solemn expression disappeared in an instant. His entire body seemed to be ignited with monstrous anger, and even his voice rose several octaves. Lan Hua. Boss Lan's expression changed as well. He took a step forward and said hesitantly, Brother Yu, why are you here? You still have the cheek to come here. He was interrupted before he could finish speaking. The other party raised his hand and summoned his weapon. I'm going to kill you, you bastard. With that said, he rushed toward Lan Hua in a flash. The 2 of them started fighting. Everyone was left dumbfounded. What was going on? Why were the 2 of them fighting all of a sudden? Celestial Emperor. Lone Moon could not help but look at Qin Gu. May I know who this Celestial Emperor is? He's Celestial Emperor Lan Yu from Yunzhe, Qin Gu replied. Oh. The other 3 people and 1 radish nodded in unison. So this was the younger brother who had tricked Lan Hua back then. But from the way he looked like he wanted to tear Boss Lan into pieces, it was obvious that there was more to this than met the eye. They could smell the stench of dog blood. Chef, did you bring any melon seeds? Xining asked. Yes, master. Do you want sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds or watermelon seeds? How about all of them? Yes, master, no problem, master. Lone Moon, Qin Gu. Speaking of which, wasn't Lan Hua supposed to be their teammate? Was it really okay to watch the show like this? The two Lan brothers fought for a few hours. No one knew who was giving in to who. The two of them seemed to be attacking each other fiercely, but none of them was defeated. It seemed like the battle was going to drag on indefinitely. Even Qinggu had to explain clearly to the female immortal who was guarding the heavenly gate just now. Xining had already finished 3 bags of melon seeds, but the two of them were still fighting. Lone Moon looked at the sky and nudged the person beside him. Xining, go and persuade them. Xining hesitated. Are you sure I should go? She was about to get up. Lone Moon immediately thought of the destroyed heavenly gate. The corner of his mouth twitched. He pulled Xining back. Forget it. Yiqing, you go. Make them stop. Although the cheat was useful, he was afraid that it would not be able to be stopped. Yiqing nodded and passed the melon seeds in his hand to Xining. In a flash he joined the battle. In an instant, a rain of swords appeared in the sky. With an overwhelming force, the swords pounced on the two brothers who were already tired from fighting. Sword Immortal. Who are you? Holy shit, Yiqing, what are you doing? Why was he fighting him as well? Yiqing did not answer. Instead, he changed his hand and his sword moved even more fiercely. The sky full of swords immediately turned into a huge sword and directly slashed towards the two of them. The two of them who had been fighting for a few hours had no way of dodging it. Just as the sword was about to slash down, the blade suddenly turned and became the body of the sword, slapping towards the two of them. With a loud thud, the two of them were slapped down and smashed into the crowd. It was the kind where their faces hit the ground, raising a cloud of dust. The two of them, who had been fighting for a few hours without being injured, lost their immortal chi. In an instant, their faces were scratched by the gravel on the ground. Yiqing landed back on the ground and said calmly, "All right, it's stopped." Qinggu, Lone Moon, everyone, Lone Moon frowned. This was a stop. This was a beating, wasn't it? Forget about Lan Yu, wasn't Lan Hua their teammate? It looked like he was hit harder than the other party. This guy was doing it on purpose, right? He just wanted to beat Lan Hua, right? Chapter 201. Lan Hua. Lan Yu sat up first. Although he had no energy left, he glared at the person in front of him. You're still the same as before, despicable and shameless. You even found a helper. How am I despicable and shameless? Lan Hua was also full of anger, but he was too tired to fight. The two of them could only argue. Weren't you the one who caused me to become a demon? So what if I became a demon? Lan Yu was even angrier. Just based on what you did to me, you deserve to die 1,000 times over. I should not have let you off that year. What did I do? Lan Hua glared back. You're my only brother. I taught you how to cultivate, protected you when you ascended, and even handed the entire Yinzhe continent to you. What did I do wrong? What? You still have the cheek to ask me? He suddenly laughed coldly and struggled to get up. He looked like he wanted to bite Lone Moon. Don't you know what you've done? Tell me. What exactly did you do? About Wen Qin, do you dare to say you didn't do it on purpose? Wen Qin. Lan Hua hesitated. Who's that? You bastard. Lan Yu exploded. He rushed over, forgetting all immortal spells and sword techniques. He grabbed Lone Moon's neck. You're still pretending? Are you even human? The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He gave Qinggu a look. The two of them stepped forward at the same time and pulled the two of them apart. They did not forget to stretch out their long legs to kick each other. A battle between two celestial emperors had turned into a quarrel between two shrews. Even the girls who were guarding the heavenly gate were stunned. Was this really an celestial emperor? Let go of me. Lan Hua shouted as he struggled. I want to ask myself why I'm not human today. Let him tell me what's going on with Wen Qin. What did you do that was human? Lan Yu retorted. You still have the cheek to ask Wen Qin? She was supposed to be my Dao partner. How dare you say you don't know her? Dao partner? Lan Hua was stunned. When did you have a Dao partner? Haven't you always been alone? It's all because of you. Lan Yu was so angry that his eyes were red. I've been with Wen Qin for 3,000 years and we've been through so much. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have abandoned me during our dual cultivation ceremony. I only want to marry you. Every day, I would guard the place where you were in seclusion to express my longing for you. This time Lan Hua was really stunned. His face was blank. There's such a thing? Recalling carefully, he remembered that there was a time when he was in seclusion. It was quite noisy outside every day, so he had no choice but to set up an isolation array formation. Could it be that the person outside was that Wen Qin? I don't know about this. I don't even know Wen Qin. All right. Just pretend that you didn't mean it. Lan Yu took a deep breath and asked again, then how do you explain Yunyu, Rushuang and Xiaojun? Ha! Lan Hua was even more confused. Oh, them? You're still pretending. Yunyu is my cousin who grew up with me. Rushuang is my betrothed in the lower realm. Xiaojun is my junior sister. How dare you say you don't remember any of them? I really don't remember. Shut up. I've given you a chance, but you've ruined my marriage over and over again. It would have been fine if you treated them sincerely, but you played around with their feelings. You coaxed them to leave me and they gave their hearts to you, but you didn't marry them. You're a scum. Oh, everyone exclaimed. They instantly understood what was going on, and vaguely felt that Lan Yu was shrouded in a verdant grassland. They all turned to look at the culprit. Why are you looking at me? Lan Hua was so angry that he stomped his feet. I didn't do it. Ever since I came to the lower realm, I've been cultivating. If I'm not in seclusion, I'm training. I've never heard of the people he mentioned. I have no impression of them at all. Not to mention abandoning them. Ever since he was young, the only thing he was passionate about was cultivation. Why would he have any feelings? He had even less contact with women. The only girls he remembered, apart from his mother, were Good Heart and the girls from Invincible Sect. He really did not know who Lan Yu was talking about. What about Shueji? Lan Yu continued to ask. Don't tell me you've forgotten about her too? Shueji? That sea rabbit demon? Lan Hua was stunned. He nodded. He remembered. Isn't that your pet? What happened to her? Lan Yu especially treasured that little demon. He brought it with him all the way to the heavenly realm. When he became a demon, that little demon was already an exalted immortal. What happened? If you hadn't told it nonsense, she would have become like that. Become like what? You know that sea rabbits have no gender. They only choose their gender when they decide on a Dao companion. If you hadn't told it nonsense. Lan Yu gritted his teeth. She would have become a man. Wow. Did it have to be so exciting? The onlookers were all stunned. There was such a development. He was the most pitiful little brother in the world. Lan Hua was also surprised. He knew that Lan Yu liked that sea hare. He became a man. How can this be? He stopped mid-sentence as he suddenly remembered something. It seemed like a few thousand years ago, there was a person who asked him with an awkward expression, is it better to be a man or a woman? As a pure man, he naturally hesitated to choose a man. He was strong and resistant. How good would that be? Could it be that the person who asked him that question was a sea rabbit? His face instantly turned pale. Lan Yu was getting angrier. He had raised his wife for so long. But because of one sentence from him, she became a man. Every time he thought of this, he wanted to tear him to pieces. It had been like this since the lower realm. Once he fell in love with a girl, as soon as his brother came out of seclusion, the girl would immediately fall in love with someone else and dump him. Once or twice was fine, but every time, it was like this. You stole your wife time and time again. I'm already letting you off easy by just letting you become a demon. Brother you? Lan Hua was at a loss. I didn't know about this. Why would I think of her? Say something for me, I really didn't do anything. He quickly looked at the four people and the radish beside him. In an instant, the four people and the radish stepped back. Even Qinggu, who was holding on to Lan Yu, let go. They pretended not to know each other. You. Hey. Isn't this betrayal too obvious? Lan Yu, who had finally recovered some of his immortal power, took 2 steps forward. What else do you have to say? Lan Hua was speechless. The four people and the radish retreated a few more steps to avoid suspicion. They stood behind Lan Lu. No, Lan Yu. Emperor Lan Yu, let's do it. I didn't see anything. I know what it feels like to be cheated. Go, don't stand on ceremony. Do you need a weapon? I have one. Do you want some melon seeds? You'll only have the energy to fight when you're full. Lan Hua, that's enough. Whose teammate was he? He was innocent. Apart from that sea rabbit demon, he hadn't spoken to anyone else. Ahua. Suddenly, a woman's voice was heard. Her tone was so gentle that it penetrated into the bones. Lan Yu, who was about to attack, shuddered. Everyone, they could vaguely hear the green hat +1. Chapter 202. A strong floral fragrance wafted into his nostrils. Flower petals filled the air as a figure descended from the sky. Her hair was combed into a bun with a gold and jade hairpin on her head. She held a peony chiffon fan in her hand and wore a moon-white silk dress embroidered with gold. She looked very graceful. He looked over with some excitement. "Ah Hua, is that you?" Her voice was as gentle as water, as if it was filled with indescribable emotions. Even her eyes were slightly watery. "I knew it. I knew you were still alive. Ah Hua." With that, she walked over quickly as if trying to grab his hand. Lan Hua immediately jumped away and dodged. "What are you trying to do?" He had not recovered from the shock of what Lan Yu had just told him. Now that he saw a woman, his heart jumped. He subconsciously stepped to the side and hid behind Shining. The female immortal faltered, her eyes filled with hurt. "Ah Hua, do you still resent us for joining forces with the other celestial emperors to attack you?" As she spoke, a teardrop fell. That pitiful look could move any man. "But, you treated me that way back then. I was so angry. Hey, don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll hit you." Lan Hua became even more cautious. The female immortal was even more hurt. Blue and Green, on the other hand, snorted coldly. They looked like they were already used to it. "Ah Hua, are you really not willing to forgive me?" The female immortal cried even harder. "All these years I've always believed that you were still alive. I've always been waiting for you. As long as you come back, I can pretend that the past never happened." Hey, don't spout nonsense. What past? What past do we have?" The female immortal stiffened. She looked at him in disbelief. "Ah Hua, how could you do this to me? I did not dare to betray you back then, but this was because you betrayed me first. I've regretted it for thousands of years. I've even given you the most precious thing in my life." "What most precious thing?" Lan Hua looked confused. The female immortal cried even harder. "I've even given you my first and only time." The crowd, "Oh, this is the gossip of this region. What first time? I didn't." "Wait, why are you looking at me like that?" "He didn't do it at all. I'm warning you, don't think that just because you're a woman, I won't do it. I don't even know you. Who are you?" The female immortal's body swayed, her face filled with grief. "You don't even want to acknowledge me?" Naturally, the onlookers looked at them as if they were looking at trash. "Hoo-hoo. Believe me, I really don't know her." "Hua, don't call me that disgusting. Who the hell are you?" "In the past, it was clearly our first time." "Shut up. Who the F***ck had their first time with you?" "Stop slandering me." Lan Hua was about to explode. His face was flushed red and he shouted at the top of his lungs, "I never had my first time. I'm still a virgin. A virgin." Everyone, "Oh, I'm telling the truth." Thinking that they didn't believe him, Lan Hua became anxious. "Believe me, I don't have a Dao companion, and my primordial yang hasn't even leaked out. I'm a virgin. I'm a virgin, all right." With that said, perhaps because he was being forced into a corner, or perhaps because of the radish's influence, he lifted the hem of his robe, looking like he was about to take off his pants to prove his innocence. His movements were too fast, and in order to make everyone believe him, he shouted every word. In an instant, the entire heavenly gate reverberated with his voice. "I'm a virgin, a virgin, a virgin." The four people and the radish, Lan Yu, the female immortal, the immortals. Finally, it was Chingu who reacted first. He pressed down on Lan Hua's hand that was about to take off his pants and urged, "Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, we believe you. We believe you, all right? Don't be rash, there's a group of female immortals standing here." Even the female immortal who had just appeared was stunned by his actions. Her mouth was agape for a long time. Cough. Lone Moon also regained his composure. After all, he was the one who brought the boss here. He felt bad if he did not speak up for him. "Fellow immortal, I wonder what happened between you and Lan Hua in the past. Can you explain it clearly?" "I don't know her." Just as he finished speaking, Lan Hua immediately added. He even glared at the female immortal. He looked like he would fight her to the death if she dared to speak nonsense again. You really don't recognize him?" Lan Yu, who was standing at the side, tooted coldly. The disdain in his eyes deepened. He obviously knew who this female immortal was, but the strange thing was that when he looked at her, he did not look very happy. Instead, he looked a little stiff. Only a ghost would recognize her. Lan Yu's eyes turned even colder. He said with some satisfaction, "He is Celestial Emperor Ingji of this cloud sea." Everyone was shocked. They were too engrossed in the gossip just now. Only now did they realize that this female immortal was really a celestial emperor. "You should remember his other name?" Lan Yu's lips curved into a smile. He said word by word, "Shuiji." The four people and the radish, the immortals, Lan Hua. This information was a little too much. Wasn't Shuiji raised by Lanyu? Didn't he make his sea rabbit demon a cuckold? When did he become the celestial emperor of Cloud Sea? Nonsense. Lan Hua was also in disbelief. It's not like I haven't seen that sea rabbit demon's human form before. You just said that he chose to become a male. Wait a minute. Before he finished speaking, his eyes widened as he looked at the female immortal in front of him. Come to think of it, this female immortal seemed a little too tall, and her body was a little too muscular. On her neck there was a throat, an Adam's apple. This charming, gentle, and beautiful person who even had a special effect of fresh flowers on her entrance was a man. Lan Hua's face turned pale. His legs turned to jelly. He almost hugged the heavenly pillar beside him as he trembled. Celestial emperors are really scary. I want to go back to invincible sect to refine pills. After Shuiji chooses his gender, he will naturally transform again. Lan Yu looked like he was watching a show as he explained, that day he admired you, that's why he asked for your opinion. He spent so many years before he succeeded in brainwashing him into choosing to become a female. In the end, with one sentence he changed him into a male. Yet for thousands of years, Yingji had already gotten used to the lifestyle of a female. There was no way he could change it. Ahua. Shuiji, no, Celestial Emperor Yingji was still looking at Lan Hua affectionately. We sea rabbits only have one chance to choose. This is really my first and only time. You have to believe me. So this was the first time he was talking about. Lan Hua's face darkened. He took a deep breath, braced himself and stepped forward. Sea rabbit. Shuiji. No. Celestial Emperor Yingji, I didn't make things clear to you back then. It was my fault. But I really didn't know what you meant. What's more, I've only met you less than 5 times, right? You almost killed me once. Why don't we call it even? We're all men anyway. I don't mind, but I mind. He looked like he had no regrets. Lan Hua felt an urge to vomit blood. He turned to Lone Moon and said, where's the bag you used to put radish in? What? Put me in it too, please. If this went on, he would be disgusted to death. Lone Moon, I Ching, Shining. Chapter 203. The only female celestial emperor of the 10 celestial emperors had become a trap. The 4 of them and 1 radish all had strange expressions on their faces. Lan Hua was in a worse state. When he found out that the trap had other intentions for him, he almost broke down. Especially after being stared at by Yingji for 4 hours. It was as if her eyes were glued to him. Lan Yu seemed very happy to see this. He looked as if he was relieved to see that she was finally getting her comeuppance. From the moment they entered the heavenly gates, Lan Hua had been holding on to Radish the entire time. He followed Shining warily, as if he would lose his integrity if he slowed down. Celestial Emperor Xan Han? The few of them explained why they were here. Yingji, who had finally recovered from her daze, paused. You're saying that he has something to do with demons? A living demon is sitting right here. There are other demons in the immortal realm. What's so strange about that? Lan Yu snorted. He glared daggers at Lan Hua. Lan Hua's mouth twitched. He did not retort. That's not why we're here. Qin Gu frowned and explained worriedly, if he could plant a demonic seed in me, he could naturally do the same to the other celestial emperors. He must have other plans. Moreover, no one knew who was behind him. Then why are you here? Yingji asked. We heard that there was a strange phenomenon in the Cloud Sea, Lone Moon explained. When Xan Han escaped, he used a spell that produced large amounts of demonic qi. It also caused a strange phenomenon. That's why we're here to investigate. As soon as he finished speaking, Yingji and Lan Yu were stunned. A strange expression flashed across their faces. Then you've come for nothing, Lan Yu replied coldly. The strange phenomenon in the Cloud Sea was not caused by demonic qi. It wasn't? You don't know. Yingji could not help but glance at Lan Hua. Lan Hua shuddered. He rubbed the goosebumps off his body and turned to hide behind them. Yingji looked away in disappointment. The strange phenomenon in the Cloud Sea was caused by the cloud beasts in the sea throwing a tantrum. What? What the hell? Throwing a tantrum meant poking a hole in the sky? Did the ancestors know that the Lan family was so childish? What are cloud beasts? Lone Moon asked. The cloud beast is the embodiment of the Cloud Sea. Yingji explained, as everyone can see, the Cloud Sea is different from the other continents. It is still an ocean floating in the sky. The reason why this place was like this was because of the presence of the cloud beasts in the sea. Every million years, the sea of clouds would give birth to sentience, and that would be the cloud beast. Cloud beasts control all living beings in the sea. Even the immortals of the cloud sea depend on them to survive. So that's how it is. Everyone nodded. But that phenomenon. There was clearly a hole in the sea. Ingji's expression froze. Even Lan Yu looked away curiously. A moment later Ingji said, "In the past, all cloud beasts born in the sea would form a contract with the Cloud Sea Celestial Emperor. He could also be considered the Celestial Thearcha's contracted beast. But, when I became the Emperor, the cloud beasts hadn't been born yet. That's why cloud beasts are still young. They're only around 5,000 years old." He sighed as if recalling something. He shook his head and continued, "In the past, cloud beasts would not easily leave the cloud sea. After all, it was originally one with the sea of clouds. Although it had a spiritual body incarnation, once it left, it wouldn't be able to escape. Once it left, more than half of the cloud sea would die. But this time the cloud beast is still young. Is still a child. It wants to leave the cloud sea?" Lone Moon asked in a low voice. "So there was a naughty child here too." "Not only that." Ingji's face twitched. He looked even more confused. "I invited Celestial Emperor Lan Yu here because of this." "But..." He turned to look at Lan Yu. Indeed, Lan Yu was frowning as well, as if he really didn't know what to say. A moment later, he gritted his teeth and stood up. "You guys, come with me to take a look. You'll know." Everyone looked confused. But they were here for the phenomenon. Although Celestial Emperor Ingji said it had nothing to do with the demon race, it was better to take a look. So they didn't object. They stood up and followed him out. Ingji led the group towards the east. Below them was a blue sea. They could faintly see the bottom of the sea. There were lush forests and mountains. It was the Cloud Sea indeed. They reached their destination in less than 10 minutes. Lone Moon looked around. This was indeed the location of the phenomenon. But when they were below the Cloud Sea, they saw a waterfall that connected the sky. Here they were above the Cloud Sea. All they saw was a huge whirlpool in the middle of the sea. There was a golden array above it that led straight to the bottom of the sea. It seemed to be blocking something. There were some immortals guarding the surroundings. But compared to the group of female immortals at the Heavenly Gate, the ones guarding here were all male immortals. And their cultivation levels were not low. They were all exalted immortals and above. There were even young emperors and immortal emperors. All of them looked flustered. They were trying to persuade the whirlpool below them. Just as the few of them got closer before they could hear clearly, a huge wave suddenly rose from the sea. It formed the shape of a fish's tail and slammed towards the immortals in front of them. The few of them hurriedly dodged. But before they could react, a few of them were slammed into the water. "Fellow immortals, you saw it too," Ingji said helplessly. Ingji said helplessly, "The cloud beast insisted on going out. It even smashed a hole in the cloud sea. That's the reason for the phenomenon. It's all thanks to Emperor Lan Yu's help. He set up this array to stop it. But these arrays won't last much longer." He could not help but look at Lan Hua. His eyes flashed. He said with some anticipation, "Ah Hua, you're the most proficient in spells. I wonder if you can..." "I can't help you." Lan Hua immediately took a step back. The cloud sea was obviously one with the cloud beast. If he repaired this hole, it would create another hole. Why did the cloud beast insist on going out? Chingu could not help but ask. Spirit beasts like this should have a sense of territory. They would not move easily. Because, Ingji was just about to explain when a childish voice sounded from the bottom of the water. It traveled to everyone's ears. "You ugly things, let me out. I want to go find a pretty big sister." Ingji, Lan Yu, the people from Invincible sect froze. This voice, this tone. Suddenly, everyone's eyes fell on a certain radish. "Why are you all looking at me?" A certain plant on Lan Hua's shoulder looked confused. It turned to see Shining looking over. Its eyes lit up. It plucked the dandelion off its head and handed it over. "Little big sister. This is for you." I Ching, Lone Moon, Lan Hua, Chingu, so all your cloud beast incarnations are like this? Get lost. The radish's heart broke. Chapter 204. Ugly, it's you again. The few of them had just landed on top of the whirlpool when the voice sounded again, as if it had sensed something. Compared to the mischievous voice from before, there was real anger in it this time. In an instant, a column of water rushed towards Ingji. "You liar, how dare you come over?" Ingji seemed to be used to it. With a wave of his hand, a defensive array appeared and blocked the column of water. Unfortunately, it was not over. Huge waves in the shape of fish tails appeared on the surface of the sea. Wave after wave they began to attack indiscriminately. "Scram, you stupid liar." Ingji looked at the immortals who had been trying to persuade them. Now they had all fallen into the water. Ingji looked at the crowd apologetically. She had no choice but to retreat a few miles away. Only then did the waves on the sea stop. "Celestial Emperor Ingji, why did the cloud beast do this?" Chingu asked in a low voice. It was obvious that the attack had been aimed at Ingji. However, the cloud beast was supposed to be his contracted immortal beast, so it shouldn't have attacked him. This. Ingji's expression changed. He did not know how to explain. After a while, he said, "This is a misunderstanding." With that, he subconsciously looked in Lan Hua's direction. His eyes seemed to be filled with resentment and some grievance. Lan Hua felt goosebumps all over his body. "Let me explain." Lan Yu saw that he really could not speak. With a sigh, he told him everything that had happened between the cloud beast and Ingji. The cloud sea was different from the other 3 seas and 6 continents. Because of the special environment, anyone who could become the emperor of the cloud sea not only had to be a celestial emperor, but also had to be recognized by the cloud beast. After all, the cloud beast was the cloud sea. If one wanted to live here, one had to get a property certificate. The contract with the cloud beast was equivalent to the property certificate of the sea. Only one cloud beast was born every few million years. When it matured, it would be as powerful as a celestial emperor. When Ingji first started cultivating, there were no new cloud beasts in the cloud sea. Although they did not interact with the other continents, it was not as strict as it was now. Although Ingji's original form was also of the water race, before he became a celestial emperor, he had always been by Lan Yu's side in his human form, so everyone thought that he was a celestial being. Even now, the other continents thought that the celestial emperor of the cloud sea was a human cultivator and not a demon immortal. In addition, the cloud pool and the cloud sea were very close to each other, so most of the cloud sea floated above the cloud pool continent. Aquatic creatures naturally like to stay close to water sources, so it was only natural that Ingji would often run from Yunzi to Yunhai to cultivate. Over time, he became familiar with the demon immortals of the cloud sea. Later on, when he was the first to ascend to the celestial emperor realm and took over the entire cloud sea, he did not encounter any obstruction or opposition. After the cloud beast appeared, Xiaoqun thought that he would have to spend some time to gain the cloud beast's recognition or fight it directly. He would either become a true sovereign emperor or be eaten by the cloud beast. Surprisingly, the cloud beast was very satisfied with him the first time they met, and it even took the initiative to form a contract with him. As a result, he became the cloud sea sovereign king. It could be said that among the 10 celestial emperors, he was the person who ascended to the position of celestial monarch the easiest. After a few thousand years, perhaps even the heavens felt that they would be letting the others down if they didn't give them some suffering. As the cloud beast grew up and became more and more intelligent, it suddenly turned hostile. "You ugly liar. To think that I thought you were a beautiful lady back then. It turns out that it was all a lie." The cloud beast's childish voice could be heard from afar. "How dare you lie to my pure feelings? I don't want to acknowledge you, you ugly thing. I want to leave this place and find other beautiful ladies." And that's what happened, Lan Yu said in a low voice. At once, the 4 of them turned to look at the culprit behind them. "Why are you looking at me? I wasn't the one who asked him to wear female clothes." Lan Hua blushed and exploded. "The cloud beast mistook me for someone else? Lone Moon, I Ching, Qinggu, Shining." So the cloud beast was so happy to form a contract with Ingji back then because it mistook him for a woman. Speaking of which, was it a common problem for incarnation-type spirit creatures to only look at one's appearance? What's more, the cloud beast actually took thousands of years to realize that Ingji was a man. Was it too slow to react, or was Ingji too good at acting? The cloud beast is still immature. It has the temperament of a child. Celestial Emperor Ingji sighed, looking like he was having a headache. "It threw a tantrum and I couldn't do anything about it. The more we tried to stop it, the more it wanted to go out. It insisted on going out to find a young lady. Since it's just throwing a tantrum, can't we just find a female immortal to coax it? Why does it have to go out of the cloud sea?" The cloud beast probably only wanted to find a pretty young lady to form a contract with. It suddenly realized that Ingji was a man and threw a tantrum because it couldn't accept it. It could just find a real female immortal to coax it. Anyway, it was still immature. As long as it didn't go out of the cloud sea, it wouldn't cause any trouble. "We tried that method." Ingji's expression darkened. But after the cloud beast threw a tantrum, its real body hid in the crystal palace in the deepest part of the cloud sea. It wanted to break through the cloud sea and escape. Usually, it would only create an avatar to come out of the water to cause trouble. To enter the crystal palace, one has to be an exalted immortal. So that was it. No wonder the cloud beast did not come out despite the waves. Its real body was at the bottom of the sea. All the exalted immortal demon immortals in the cloud sea tried to persuade it, Ingji continued. But they were all chased out. What? Ingji's mouth twitched. Said they were ugly. Everyone, Lone Moon subconsciously looked up at Ingji's face. To be honest, if one ignored some of his masculine features, Ingji's face could really be described as stunning. What's more, Ingji's eyes were more feminine, and he was dressed in female clothes. It was no wonder that the cloud beast would despise other female immortals for being ugly. There was no one left in the cloud sea. I had no choice but to remove the restrictions on the cloud sea. I wanted to invite all the female immortals in the world to come and give it a try. Ingji frowned. The immortals of the cloud sea have never interacted with other continents in the past. It was not easy for some of them to come and give it a try. Not only were they all male immortals, but they all had ulterior motives. It was very annoying. Was that why he set up that sign at the heavenly gates? That's why this matter has not been resolved. Ingji frowned deeply. He was about to ask the few of them if they knew any female exalted immortals that they were familiar with. Xining, who had been chewing on a fruit, suddenly spoke up. Why don't I try? She was quite experienced in teaching naughty children. You? The moment she finished speaking, Lone Moon started to mock her out of habit. Forget it. Didn't Celestial Emperor Ingji say it already? The cloud beast has high standards for looks. Xining tilted her head. Am I not good looking? Lone Moon rolled his eyes and turned to look at her face. Are you good looking or not? Don't you have a... Before he could finish speaking, his eyes were fixed on the familiar yet strange face in front of him. His voice seemed to be stuck in his throat. This was the first time he was looking at her face in such a way. From a man's point of view, she seemed pretty. Chapter 205. She had a chubby little face and a cherry-like mouth. Her eyes, which had always been lazy and lifeless, were wide open at this moment. The corners of her eyes were slightly raised, and her snow-white skin was so smooth that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of it. There were even 2 strands of a hoge on her forehead that were swaying back and forth. She was not as gorgeous as Qingyu, nor was she as gentle and beautiful as Ingji. But surprisingly cute. Very cute. The extremely cute kind. *degree***. Lone Moon felt a thump in his heart as if he had been stabbed. It had nothing to do with his feelings, but he felt a sense of relief. Holy shit. Why didn't he realize that Xining was actually so good-looking? Why did he feel the urge to snatch her away and make her his daughter? Degree, what's wrong? Everyone looked at Xining, confused. She suddenly turned around and pressed her hand against her chest, taking deep breaths. I Ching stepped forward worriedly and pulled Xining over to take a closer look at her face. Master, your face is not... His voice trailed off and his whole body froze. His usually serious face seemed to have been painted with a layer of red paint. In an instant it turned red. He stared blankly at the face in front of him, and a loud thumping sound came from his chest, as if something was about to rush out of his body. He never knew that Master was actually so good-looking. Hey, what are you doing? Seeing the 2 of them suddenly stunned, the others thought that there was really something wrong with Xinying's face. They all stepped forward and looked at Xinying's face seriously. Qinggu, Sect Master Shen, why are you, Lanhua, good heart, you're not? Holy shit. Ingji, fellow immortals, why are you so cute, radish, get lost. You're not allowed to look, little missy is mine. Lanyu, sister, how old are you? Do you have a Dao partner? Do you like celestial emperors, the younger ones? Get lost. 4 I Ching kicked a certain spare tire specialist with the surname Lan away and pulled out his sword at the same time. Xining? Motherf *Ker, did they not see what she looked like except for radish? In the center of the sea of clouds in the Crystal Palace, a short figure was squatting on the golden magic array in the middle of the hall. He was holding something in his hand and poking it with force. Every time he poked the golden magic array, specks of golden light would splatter out, and the talismans on the ground would darken a little. As he smashed it, he muttered to himself, "Humph, that damned liar, don't think that you can trap me with a stupid array. No one can stop me from finding a pretty big sister." Xining followed him and squatted down. She looked at the thing in his hand and asked subconsciously, "What's that in your hand?" The child didn't even think about it and replied casually, "What tooth?" It clearly looked like a stick. "Of course it's my teeth." The child continued, "When I was 4,500 years old, I got my teeth replaced. Look, my teeth haven't even grown out yet." As he spoke, he suddenly turned around and opened one corner of his mouth. He gestured for her to look at the empty gums on the right side and said proudly, "My teeth are the hardest things in the sea of clouds." Oh. Shining nodded in understanding. Something flashed in her eyes. "Since it's so powerful, why don't you bite it open directly?" The child was stunned for a moment. He seemed to think that what she said made sense. His eyes brightened and he really lay on the ground, opened his mouth and bit at the array. In the end he successfully knocked his teeth. "Epsilon, Omega, Omega, you lied to me." He glared at her angrily and held his teeth that were in pain. "Biting like this, it hurts." Shining said seriously, "It won't hurt if you knock it all off." "I'm angry. I'm ignoring you." The child snorted angrily and turned around to continue using the huge tooth in his hand to smash the array. He had just knocked twice when his body suddenly stiffened. As if he had just reacted, he turned to look at the person beside him in shock. "Oh, who are you?" He sat on the ground and stared at her with wide eyes. "When did you come in?" "Oh, I came in when you said you wanted to find a pretty young lady." The child's face paled. He glared at her even more angrily. "I'm warning you, don't try to stop me from breaking the array. Otherwise, I'll eat you up." With that said, he purposely bared his white teeth. "Who said I was going to stop you from breaking the array?" She was only here to persuade him not to leave the sea of clouds. The child paused and glanced at her suspiciously. "Isn't that so? Then why are you here?" Just as he finished asking, he suddenly thought of something. "You were sent here by that liar, weren't you? I've seen all the female immortals in the sea of clouds. I won't like you. You also. He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened as he stared straight at Xinying's face. He had never seen this young lady before. She was quite pretty. If it was her, he thought of something and his face suddenly turned red. He said awkwardly, "Ahem. If it's you, I'll be fine. Then I'll reluctantly agree to let you be my beautiful big sister." Is it that simple? He was indeed obsessed with looks. Then. She was just about to persuade him. The child suddenly rushed over and grabbed her hand. "I'll eat you right now." After saying that, it suddenly opened its mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth and bit down on her wrist. Then, with a crack, a tooth fell out. "It hurts, it hurts, it hurts." He covered his bleeding mouth and gasped for air. Was little Missy so hard? "Why did you bite me?" Shining was also stunned by this naughty child's sudden action. He looked aggrieved. "It was the demon immortals who told me that if I meet a beautiful lady, I have to eat her." What the hell? Who in the world had told it such dirty words? That's not what they mean. "I don't care." The little cloud beast was anxious. It wiped the blood from its mouth and suddenly changed back to its original form. A huge fish that was more than 10 times bigger than the Crystal Palace appeared in front of it. It seemed to cover the sky. What a huge fish. "It's not easy to find a beautiful lady that I like." Its voice came from above, its tone full of arrogance. "Although you're a little short, a little skinny, a little fierce and not gentle. But I still want to eat you. Thank you for your whole family. And, most importantly, your chest is a little too small. I like big ones. You're too flat." The corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. Flat. Flatter than Ingji. She felt a buzz in her head. This sentence began to replay in her mind. Flatter than Ingji, flatter than Ingji. But, since I've swallowed it, I won't be able to see it anymore. So be it if it's small. As it spoke, it suddenly opened its mouth. In an instant, the seawater around it twisted, forming a huge whirlpool in its mouth. Everything around it was sucked towards the corner of its mouth. Just as it was about to be swallowed, Shining suddenly reached out and grabbed one of its sharp teeth. "Little cloud beast." She suddenly grinned and said word by word, "Did anyone tell you that little animals that talk nonsense will be eaten? Sure enough, children are the most annoying thing." The cloud beast paused. It felt an aura that covered the sky and the earth and rushed towards it. With a cracking sound, the tooth that was caught was instantly crushed into powder. Before it could even react, before it could even move, it felt a weight on its head. With a loud bang, the fish head landed heavily on the bottom of the sea. Its vision turned black. Suddenly, the entire sea echoed with someone's exasperated voice. You're the King Flat Princess. Airport. Soup dumplings. Fermented rice balls. It didn't say that. So 1 minute later. Are you still going to eat me? Sob sob sob. I'm not eating anymore. You want to leave the Cloud Sea. I'm not leaving. I'm never leaving. You just said, your chest is the biggest, especially big. So big that I can't even see your face. Chapter 206. Above the Cloud Sea. Will the fellow immortal inside be all right? Ingji looked worried. Lady Shen looked like an earth immortal. Although he did not know why these people were so confident that she could enter the Crystal Palace, he knew the Cloud Beast's character very well. He could not help but worry that something might happen to her. Don't worry, Celestial Emperor. Shining knows what she's doing, Lone Moon replied. After some thought he added, should? What the hell should he mean? He was even more worried now. The whirlpool on the sea has disappeared. Someone suddenly exclaimed. Everyone paused and turned to look. Indeed, a few miles away, the whirlpool that was sealed by the golden array had disappeared. The surface of the sea was calm again. Even the occasional waves had stopped. The whirlpool had disappeared. The only possibility was that the hole that the Cloud Beast opened at the bottom of the sea had closed up. Ingji rejoiced. Indeed, an immortal came to report that the water under the Cloud Sea was no longer leaking. He heaved a sigh of relief. It looked like the Cloud Beast had been persuaded to come down. The few of them waited for a while longer. Then they saw a translucent bubble rising from the bottom of the sea. It parted the seawater and flew towards them. Inside the bubble stood two figures, one tall and one short. The tall one was Shining. The one beside her looked like a half-grown child. He must be the Cloud Beast. Ingji. Before they could get close, the Cloud Beast suddenly rushed out of the bubble. It plunged into Ingji's arms and started crying. I will never despise you again. I will never leave the Cloud Sea again. The young lady outside was so scary. Ingji paused. He looked at the Cloud Beast, who had suddenly changed its attitude. It was even more clingy than when it did not know its gender. He did not know how to react. After a while, he patted the Cloud Beast's little body. He sighed and said, It's good that you've thought it through. How did you do it? Lone Moon looked at Ingji. Without the Cloud Beast controlling the bubble, Ingji was back on the sword. Everyone had heard how the Cloud Beast had despised Ingji. Why did the two of them forget their differences in less than 5 minutes after Shining went in? Was she that eloquent? Nothing much. I was just trying to reason with him, Shining said calmly. Oh. Lone Moon nodded. Suddenly he thought of something and froze. Wait a minute. Wasn't Xin Ying's method of reasoning? Turning around to take a look, Zhang Xian's mouth twitched. What was going on with the Cloud Beast's swollen face? You did it, didn't you? Thank you, fellow immortals, for helping my Cloud Sea resolve this crisis. Ingji thanked them sincerely and looked at Shining gratefully. Thank you for your hard work, fellow immortal. If you ever need my help in the future, Ingji will not hesitate to help. It's okay. Every family has a couple of naughty kids, Shining replied casually. The child in Ingji's arms shuddered. He buried his head even deeper and did not dare to look back. Since this matter has been settled, we shall not disturb you any further. Lone Moon chuckled and stepped forward to take his leave. While Ingji had not noticed, he hurried away. Everyone, are you leaving so soon? Ingji's face was filled with reluctance. She subconsciously looked at Lan Hua, her eyes filled with longing. Lan Hua shuddered and rubbed the goosebumps off his body. He even shoved the radish in his hand back to Lone Moon. He urged, hurry, hurry. Don't we still need to find Xen Han? With that said, he turned and flew out. Ahua. Ingji wanted to stop him, but the Cloud Beast was still holding her. Everyone hurried to catch up and flew out of the heavenly gate. Where are we going now? Lan Hua asked. Bo Si the Void Land, Lone Moon replied. Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, although the Bo Si Celestial Emperor has already investigated that place, Chingu explained, Bo Si is not far from here. We can go and take a look on the way. I know that, but... Lan Hua's mouth twitched. He turned and glared at Lan Yu. Why are you following us? What business do you have here? What does it have to do with you where I go? Lan Yu glared back at him. We'll settle our differences later. Don't think I'll let you off. With that said, he suddenly turned to look at Shining, his eyes shining. Instantly he looked like a gentle young master. He smiled kindly and said, Miss Shen, this trip to the Void Land is very dangerous. Why don't you let Lan Yu go with you? He can protect you. Shining hesitated. Were they close? Don't worry. I'm a celestial emperor and a talisman cultivator. I have as many defensive talismans as I want. Do you need talisman papers, talisman spirits, talisman treasures or talisman arrays? With that said, he took out a stack of talismans as thick as a dictionary from his storage bag and stuffed them into Xin Ying's hands. Everyone, speaking of which, was giving away wealth, a good tradition of the Lan family? Winky face, what are you trying to do? Before they could react, Lan Hua exploded in anger. He stood between the two of them and glared at him warily. Are you trying to get rid of me through kindness? Dream on. I'm warning you, if you have any problems, come at me. Don't even think about touching her. You're allowed to steal my people, but I'm not allowed to steal yours? Who stole your people? You're still denying it? I wasn't the one who made your girl like me. I didn't do anything. If it wasn't for you, would they have treated me like that? What has it got to do with me? Seeing that the two of them were about to quarrel again, I Ching finally could not help but summon his sword. Enunciating each word, he said, Master, who do you think I should kill first? These two little bastards who stole his master. Lone Moon, Qin Gu, Shining. Lan Yu's thinking was actually very simple. His brother stole his girl, so he had to get it back. All these years, apart from his mother in the mortal realm, Shining was the only person of the opposite sex who had appeared by Lan Hua's side. And she was quite pretty too. So she must be Lan Hua's girl. He had to fight for her. Lan Hua's thinking was even simpler. This troublesome brother of his had secretly caused him a lot of trouble in the past. Although the reason was very stupid, it was still understandable. As the big brother, he did not want to argue with him. But it was wrong of him to target Goodheart. The other party obviously wanted to use her to take revenge on him. Although getting rid of Goodheart was good for him, but he could not control himself. The thought of someone harboring ill intentions towards Goodheart made him want to beat the hell out of him. Degree, Miss Shen, I'm serious. Lan Yu turned around and grabbed Xin Ying's hand. He said affectionately, Trust me, I will treat you very well. Why don't you stop going to the void and follow me back to Yunzhe? Bastard, let go of her. Lan Hua summoned his weapon and went forward to grab her. The two of them were about to start fighting. That. Shining suddenly spoke. Her expression was calm. Lan Lu, I'm Lan Yu. What the hell was Lan Lu? Oh, let me ask you a question. Please ask. Mississippi, is being a spare tire addictive? Lan Yu, Lan Hua, I Ching, who was about to kill Lan Lu. Everyone, crack. They could vaguely hear something shattering. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.